Chapter 1039. Jilu City was built with the back of a mountain, and there was an endless canyon in front of it. There was only a bridge made of demonic trees that connected the two sides of the canyon. The terrain was extremely steep. Thus, when the beast tide arrived, it became the best choice for the various abyssal tribes to avoid calamity. Less than 4 days after the news of the beast tide arrived, Jilu City was already filled with people. However, there was still a large number of abyssal demons pouring in, causing the city's environment to become increasingly tense. The prices of all kinds of resources skyrocketed, causing some merchants who had been hoarding to make a lot of money. An honored guest has arrived. As the green-tailed demon's voice rang out from the entrance, the noisy hall immediately fell silent. Countless gazes gathered on him. At this time, it was a seller's market. Furthermore, there were many guests. It was already good to have someone greet them. For them to receive such treatment, it was clear that this person was truly an honored guest. In the Thousand Eye Hall, such treatment was naturally due to the accumulation of demonic crystals. They had spent at least 10 million demonic crystals. What entered the eyes of the demons was a large man. He was nearly 3 meters tall, and his muscles looked like they were made of iron. He gave off a valiant aura. With just one glance, everyone could tell that this person was not someone to be trifled with. They immediately looked away. Normally, Jilu City's order was pretty good, but now that the beast tide had arrived, the situation had changed. At this time, no one cared if a few demons died. "Mr. Lu Hua, you're here. The steward has already ordered us to bring you in. Please." The fox race woman was the most charming, and her figure was even more alluring. She wore a short skirt that revealed a pair of slender, white legs. Her chest was even more eye-catching. After bowing with a smile, she turned around and led the way, her fiery red tail twisting around her slender waist. Lu Hua remained expressionless. After nodding slightly, he followed behind the fox woman. He did not care about the lingering gazes. This performance caused the expressions of many demons in the dark to change. After thinking about it, they suppressed the desire in their hearts. Demonic crystals were tempting, but one needed to be alive to enjoy them. No matter how they looked at it, Lu Hua did not seem like a good target. After leaving the hall, the noise in his ears instantly disappeared. At the end of the beautifully decorated and spotless passageway was a very large reception room. The steward of the Thousand Eye Hall was a smiling fox elder dressed in a long black robe. He had obviously received the news in advance and was waiting outside the door. "Mr. Lu Hua, please enter." The fox girl retracted her seductive demeanor, and her face unexpectedly became as pure as ice and as pure as jade. She didn't speak a single word as she sat in front of the short table and began to boil water for tea. What the abyssal demons drank was a kind of tea tree that was rooted in the abyss and grew by absorbing demonic energy. It was greatly beneficial to the demon race's cultivation. Adding on the fact that there were very few of them, they could be considered a treasure even more precious than demon crystals. It was something that only the upper echelons had the qualifications to enjoy. As the host and guests sat down, Old Fox gestured with his hand. "Sir, please enjoy." Lu's expression was indifferent as he said, "I did not come to the Thousand Eye Hall to drink tea." Old Fox's eyes flashed. "It seems that Mister is in a hurry. Then, I won't delay any further." As he spoke, he clapped his hands. The fox girl put down the tea set. After carefully wiping her hands, she went to the back of the reception room and brought out a black box made entirely of demon crystals. She placed it in front of Lu Hua. "The things that Mister wants, my Thousand Eye Hall has already prepared them. One of them is the blood of the 6-eared een monkey. It is an unexpected harvest. The value of this item far exceeds the demon crystals that Mister has paid. But in order to express our gratitude for Mister's trust, my Thousand Eye Hall will not charge any additional fees. I only hope that in the future, if Mr. Lu Hua still needs it, you will continue to cooperate with my Thousand Eye Hall," Old Fox said with a sincere expression. Lu's expression relaxed. He nodded. "I already understand the sincerity of the Thousand Eye Hall." He opened the black magic crystal box. Inside were 8 exquisitely crafted clear tubes. Inside were different colored liquids, each flashing with a halo of light. He picked them up one by one. After carefully inspecting them, Lu Hua closed the magic crystal box and stood up. "There is no problem. It was a pleasure working with you." Old Fox smiled. "Today's transaction is the largest that our hall has made in the last half a year. Now that the city is in chaos, if Mr. Lu Hua is willing, you can rest in our hall for several days. The fox girl will be responsible for taking care of your daily needs." The indifferent fox girl's face flushed red, but her eyes were quite bold. She directly looked at him, her eyes bright and watery, as if they had a pair of small hooks. But unfortunately, this performance that could make an ordinary man's throat dry up didn't arouse Lu Hua's attention at all. He didn't even look at the fox girl before directly refusing her. "I have other matters to attend to. I will bid my farewells here." He stood up and left. Old Fox smiled and nodded. "That's also good. Someone come and send Mr. away." When his figure vanished, the fox girl looked up, a puzzled expression on her face. "Why did you let him leave so easily?" Old Fox furrowed his eyebrows. "This person is not good to provoke. Now that the beast tide is about to arrive, it is best not to cause as much trouble as possible." After leaving the Thousand Eye Hall, Lu Hua blended into the streets. In the rolling stream of people, he vanished without a trace. A moment later, several abyssal demons stopped, their complexions pale. The figure they had locked onto had actually vanished from right under their noses. Damn it, a fat sheep had run away. Creak. The courtyard doors were pushed open from the outside, and Lu Hua stepped in. After carefully inspecting the area and making sure that no one had touched it, he turned and closed the doors. "You're back." Liao Shi walked out. His eyes fell on Qin Yu, and he couldn't help but reveal a strange expression. "Your form metamorphosis bloodline ability is actually quite good for disguising yourself and escaping." She never imagined that Qin Yu would awaken a second bloodline inheritance so quickly. But this time, his luck didn't seem so good. For metamorphosis, as long as one obtained a part of another's body, whether it was blood, hair, scales, or anything else, they could transform into the appearance of the other party. From the current tests, it seemed that there were no race restrictions. After metamorphosis, one could even obtain a portion of the other party's abilities. If that was all there was to it, this could be considered a very good bloodline ability. After all, if one could obtain a portion of a tyrannical creature's body and use it as a medium, they could erupt with a terrifying strength for a short period of time. Unfortunately, after Qin Yu took form metamorphosis, everything would be fine if he didn't attack. Otherwise, he would wildly burn away the medium he used. The greater the eruption of strength, the faster it would burn away. According to Liao Shi's judgment, this was basically a useless ability. But as Liao Shi said, if it was used purely to hide oneself, it was indeed quite amazing. At most, it could be considered a consolation prize. Qin Yu had a calm expression. The bloodline ability obtained from fusing with the abyssal source was only an unexpected harvest for him. It was best to be strong, but if it was useless, he wouldn't care too much. Here's what you want. Check it. When he was in the Thousand Eye Hall, he had pretended to look through it, but the truth was that he couldn't tell what was inside. Liao Shi's eyes brightened. She turned and took the magic crystal box away. After a moment, her voice echoed in the room. "There's no problem with it. I'll try making it." Qin Yu nodded. He returned to the stone bench in the courtyard and sat down. His eyes swept over the courtyard, his expression calm. In truth, he didn't know who Lu Hua was. On the day he brought Liao Shi to Giant Deer City, this fellow had recklessly jumped out and insisted on buying Qin Yu's dirty maid. Even after Qin Yu rejected him, he still didn't relent and even tried to steal her. Qin Yu had no choice but to spend a bit of effort to kill off Lu Hua and his demon subordinates. Then, he conveniently took Lu Hua's things and became rich. When he was cleaning up the items, he learned that Lu Hua was a demon refiner of the Abyss. This was a profession unique to the Abyss. The general scope of its work was to use various external objects to strengthen the bloodline of the demons. Strictly speaking, the races of the Abyss were built upon various bloodlines. The stronger the bloodline, the more powerful they would be. Demon refiners were a relatively high-end profession. In addition, Lu Hua should have some skill in this field. Thus he gave Qin Yu a massive number of demon crystals. Liao Shi received a manual. It was unknown how she looked through it or whether she truly understood it, but she actually found a way to hide her aura. Today, Qin Yu had taken back the magic crystal box from the Thousand Eye Temple, and all of them were materials that he needed. Although he didn't know how effective they were, their value was astonishing. The demon crystals Qin Yu obtained from Lu Hua were nearly all used up in this transaction. It was also because of this that he was treated as an honored guest by the Thousand Eye Hall. After all, even for the upper demons who spent money like dirt, spending 10 million demon crystals at once was a heroic act that soared to the heavens. Although it didn't take much effort to obtain it, and he didn't feel too much pain spending it, for him to waste 2 days on this matter, it was best if it was of some use. Otherwise, Qin would have to think of other ways to conceal Liao Shi's aura. In Jilu City, a massive number of demons had gathered, and there were many tyrannical individuals among them. In these last 2 days, Qin had sensed several auras that left him feeling dread. If these people were to discover Liao Shi's existence, then even if Qin did as he said he would and fled by himself, he feared he wouldn't be able to escape Jilu City alive. He had inexplicably entered the abyss and even fused with a portion of the abyss source. But Qin had already tried, and it was nearly impossible for him to unravel the myriad soul Tao on his own. Thus, Liao Shi was his only chance. No matter what, he would do his best to ensure her safety. All sorts of thoughts raced through Qin Yu's mind. After an unknown period of time, there was a loud bang in his ears. He stood up and rushed towards Liao Shi's room. Bang! He slammed open the door and a massive amount of fog rushed out. Liao Shi's laughter echoed out from within the fog. Ha ha! I really am a genius. I actually succeeded on my first try. Qin Yu relaxed. At this time, as the fog dispersed, the room gradually became clear and Liao Shi's figure appeared. Qin Yu's eyes swept over her body and he stiffened. He turned around and said, "Since I succeeded, I might as well test the effects." As he spoke, he walked away. Liao Shi glanced at his back and then looked down at herself. Because of the final explosion, her dress had been torn in many places. She smirked. She thought that it was just a bag of skin, so if she looked, then she looked. If she didn't even care, then she should be embarrassed. Haha, what a hypocrite. Liao Shi casually pulled at her clothes and covered up the exposed parts. Then, she excitedly looked down at the item in her hands. This was a jade-like ornament. It was round and about the size of a child's palm. There was a halo of light constantly flowing on its surface, making it quite eye-catching. Qin Yu, hurry up and find something to string this on and help me put on. In the courtyard, Qin Yu's eyes twitched as he watched Liao Shi run out of the room. He really couldn't tell that this woman's mind was actually so broad. Although it was pleasing to the eye, Qin Yu still felt a trace of dread when facing this incomparably mysterious woman of unknown identity. There was no reason for it. He was just worried, although Liao Shi didn't care about it right now. If he continued to stare at her like this, it was likely that he would run into misfortune in the future. Cough. I'm going to find something. You wait in the courtyard and don't move around. Qin Yu hurriedly pushed open the door and left. A moment later, he returned and handed the item in his hands to Liao Shi. Go and change your clothes first. I'll help you string this up. Liao Shi humped twice. Qin Yu, do I not look good? Yes. If you look good, then why do you want me to change my clothes? I'm afraid of death. Liao Shi covered her mouth and laughed. Brat, I've discovered that you are quite cautious. She rubbed her chin as if thinking about something. Then she nodded. Although I don't care too much about it, what you said makes sense. Then I'll go and change my clothes. Qin Yu's forehead began to sweat. What do you mean by makes sense? Could it be that if I look at you too much, I really might die? Fuck, this is like a meteorite crater from the heavens. If I hadn't been vigilant enough, I really would have died because of you. Qin Yu's face darkened. He used a rope made from animal skin to string the ornament and helped Liao Shi put it on. Then he focused his mind to sense it. The aura really did seem a bit different, but Qin Yu wasn't a pure abyssal creature after all. He needed to confirm the effects of this thing. What you said makes sense. Let's go. Let's take a stroll around Giant Deer City, Liaosher said excitedly. Ever since she entered the abyss, she had been tightly controlled by Qinyu. She basically hadn't seen the living conditions of the demons in the abyss. But unfortunately, this suggestion was rejected by Qinyu without hesitation. What nonsense! If this thing was effective, then that would be for the best. But if, he didn't want to die with her. Moreover, according to Qinyu's speculations, the most likely scenario was that he would die alone. Liaosher absolutely wouldn't die with him. You wait here. I will go and capture some abyssal demons. After coldly suppressing Liaosher's protests, Qinyu left behind these words and left once more. In the current Giant Deer City, there was no longer any order to speak of. As long as there wasn't too much of a commotion, no one would care if there were a few demons missing. Moreover, the demons were cruel and violent by nature. There were many conflicts in the dark, and countless corpses appeared in the city every day. Qinyu easily captured 4 abyssal demons. They were all of different races. One of them had a long nose and seemed to have the bloodline of an abyssal demon hound flowing through his body. His sense of smell was amazing. After waking up the 4 abyssal demons, Liaosher put on a veil and walked in front of them. Reality proved that the effect of the round pendant was excellent. The 4 abyssal demons didn't discover him at all. They only wailed and begged for mercy. After confirming the effects of the pendant, he finished off the 4 abyssal demons. As a stowaway from the world of flesh and blood, Qinyu didn't feel any psychological burden at all when he killed creatures in the abyss. Moreover, every abyssal creature he killed now represented an unknown reward. Now, within his soul space, there were already countless stars. If Liaosher wasn't wrong, then after he returned to the world of the living, these stars would transform into rewards for him. Strictly speaking, Qinyu had already obtained a similar reward. When he first entered the myriad soul Dao, the first abyssal creature he killed had given him a reward from the heavens and earth. And that was only a single one. If he were to multiply them together, just what sort of harvest would there be? Qinyu was filled with anticipation towards this reward. As the first treasure I refined in the abyss, it has the qualifications for me to personally name it. Liaosher paced back and forth. She had changed into a purple dress that was popular among the women of the high-level races of the abyss. It was a bit tight and outlined her graceful curves. Thinking back to the scene he saw before, Qinyu felt his nose itch. He coughed and looked away. Liaosher curled her lips. She looked at Qinyu and said, "This round pendant is to conceal my aura. It is also a method of disguise. Let's call it the hypocrisy pendant." Qinyu was expressionless. He thought that this name had nothing to do with him at all, so he absolutely couldn't reveal the slightest bit of embarrassment. Otherwise, he would be admitting that he wasn't fighting, and that would be far too shameful. Chapter 1040. In fact, Qinyu never imagined that Liaosher would be so addicted to the experience of being a demon refiner that she couldn't extricate herself. Even though he thought her slogan of becoming the most powerful demon refiner in the abyss was laughable. But Liaosher said that the process of being a demon refiner could help her see the world of the abyss more clearly. Qinyu hesitated for a moment and then nodded. Even now, Qinyu didn't understand what Liaosher meant by seeing the world of the abyss. But as long as she didn't leave this courtyard and the abyssal demons didn't discover Liaosher's existence, then what she did wasn't important. Moreover, Qinyu had some plans in his heart. Disregarding the slogan of becoming the strongest demon refiner in the abyss, the success of the hypocrisy pendant proved that Liaosher had some talent in the aspect of demon refiners. If so, then she might be able to refine even stronger items that could conceal her aura in the future. This was a situation that Qinyu was happy to see. So, he would let her do whatever she wanted. But soon, it became clear that Qinyu had underestimated Liaosher's enthusiasm. Moreover, he had placed himself in the wrong position. Bystander? He was far too naive. I told you before that after I entered the abyss, I couldn't use any strength. And in the demon refiner profession, there are certain steps that require the assistance of abyssal demon energy to proceed. Don't look at me like that. The fact that the hypocrisy pendant was successfully refined is a special case and doesn't represent anything. In short, you must be my assistant. When I need you, help me complete the special steps of the refinement. Of course, you can refuse, but I must remind you that if I am in a bad mood, I will become excited and the aura I release will rapidly become stronger. When that happens, the abyssal demons will be drawn in. Don't say that I didn't warn you. Qin Yu's face darkened. He wanted to roar out loud. Like hell, I'll believe you. You are such a bad woman. This reason was just too good. Although he knew that there was an 80% chance that she was speaking nonsense, Qin Yu didn't dare to gamble. Taking 10,000 steps back, even though Liao sure needed his help and protection, when it came to the myriad soul Dao, he was still in a passive position. Without much hesitation, the first assistant to the future strongest demon refiner in the Chaos Abyss officially assumed his position with an incredibly grim expression. Liao Shi had a smug look on his face as his eyes narrowed into slits. These abyssal jade slips were left behind by Lu Hua. They contain the necessary requirements to become a true demon refiner. I've already looked through it, and you meet the requirements. What you need to do now is to familiarize yourself with what a demon refiner is, as well as the scope of your work and the things to take note of. You don't need to be proficient, just remember to do as I say, so you can take some time to look at these things. Right now, the most important thing is to help me find some materials. Oh, let me think. What should I refine for my second work? The next day, the gloomy Qin Yu transformed into flowing fire once more. He closed the courtyard doors and hurriedly left. In just one day, the number of abyss devils in Jilu City had clearly increased. The city was filled with restlessness. In a short period of time, Qin Yu had personally witnessed 7 or 8 clashes between the demons. In the most fiery one, both sides fought with true fire and directly revealed their true demonic forms. They bit at each other until their bodies were covered in wounds and their intestines flowed to the ground, forming a long pool. One couldn't help but admire the abyssal devil's potent vitality. Even though they suffered such serious injuries, they didn't care at all and continued to brutally slaughter each other. Qin Yu glanced around several times. When he heard that the demon guards of Jilu City were rushing over, he quickly turned and left to avoid trouble. A moment later, the Thousand Eye Temple appeared in the distance. As the largest chain organization in the Chaos Abyss, it was said that wherever the abyssal races resided, there would be a branch station there. Whether this was true or not, Qin Yu knew that it was indeed extremely strong. The last transaction had cost an astonishing amount of money, but at the very least, it had managed to gather what Qin Yu needed within the allotted time. Oh, that was wrong. It was what Liao Shi needed. But no matter who it was that wanted it, with such a strong partner, although it revealed a bit of ill intent, it didn't take action. This was better than Qin Yu looking for someone else in the dark. So, Qin Yu chose the Thousand Eye Temple for the new materials that Liao Shi needed. Just like last time, Qin Yu's arrival caused the eyes of the green-tailed demon guard responsible for welcoming guests to brighten. He turned and shouted, "Honored guest has arrived." Without surprise, he received another harvest. A massive number of surprised eyes filled with ill intent. Today, there were even more demons in the Thousand Eye Temple than there were yesterday. All sorts of discussions and bargaining sounds mixed together, creating an uproar. The fox girl that he had met twice soon appeared in front of him. She bowed and said, "Mr. Wildfire has come again. I wonder what you need today." As she spoke, there was a bit of bitterness in her eyes. She was truly worthy of being the fox race that was famous for their affection and ability to play with the hearts of others. Just a single glance was enough to show off her skills. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to resist her gaze. Qin Yu said, "I have a transaction. I hope to ask the Thousand Eye Temple for help." The fox girl smiled. "There are many people here." "Mister, please follow me." Qin Yu waved his hand. "It's only a small transaction. There is no need to trouble yourself." The fox girl shook her head. "Mister is an honored guest of my Thousand Eye Temple. No matter where or when you are, you will receive the highest level of hospitality. If you don't agree, this fox girl will definitely be punished. Although Mr. doesn't care about the body of fox girl, I still hope that you can take pity on her. This fox girl's acting skills were truly exquisite. Feeling the change in the eyes of the surrounding abyssals, Chinyu felt that if he continued to decline, there would definitely be people jumping out to take pity on her. The abyssals were truly impulsive fools. Chinyu secretly ridiculed them. He took a deep breath and said, "Please lead the way." In the current situation, if it wasn't necessary, he would avoid it if he could. The fox girl's anger turned into a smile. She gestured with her hand and swayed her alluring figure as she led Chinyu out of the hall. Who is this person? Even in the Thousand-Eye Temple, he can receive such courteous treatment? An abyssal demon asked. Another demon said, "I saw this person yesterday. His name is Wildfire. I don't know what his background is, but he is definitely wealthy. To have a fox girl try so hard to seduce him, he can't just be described as wealthy." Another demon coldly sneered. After a moment of silence, the hall was restored to its noisy state once more. But many of the demons had a gloomy look in their eyes. The beast tide was approaching. Unless they obtained a special amnesty from Jilu City, everyone would have to climb up the city walls to resist the crazy onslaught of demon beasts. Although Jilu City had never had a record of being breached by demon beasts, there had been serious casualties in previous beast tides. No one had full confidence they could safely survive the beast tide. Thus, during this period of time, everyone was desperately thinking of ways to increase their strength. It was because of this that business in the Thousand-Eye Temple was booming. If they could swallow such a fat sheep into their stomachs, it would be enough to buy several powerful armors as well as life-saving potions. Was there a risk in trying to steal it? Living in the abyss, when was there ever a day without danger? Just walking down the road, there was a chance that a demon beast would jump out and eat you, or perhaps you would be captured and your bloodline extracted to be refined into a potion. Only with harvests did one have to pay. In a place like the abyss, it was impossible to survive if one was too careful. Chinyu followed the same passage as yesterday, but this time, he wasn't brought directly to Steward Old Fox. Instead, he was brought to another reception room. The fox girl gently brewed tea. She had an apologetic expression. "Because I didn't know Mr. would come today, the steward has other arrangements and is currently receiving guests. But I have already passed on the message. I asked Mr. to wait here for a moment. The steward will soon catch up." Chinyu took out a magic crystal card. This was a special card made from demon crystals. It was similar to a jade slip in the world of the living. It could record some information. "The reason I came this time is to purchase some materials. The list is here, so there shouldn't be a need for the steward to appear." The fox girl hesitated for a moment. She took the magic crystal card and looked through it. A trace of doubt appeared in her heart, but she didn't reveal it. She smiled and said, "It is indeed within my transaction authority. If Mr. is in a hurry to use it, I can prepare it now." Chinyu nodded. "Thank you." The fox girl bowed and left. She soon returned and placed a demonic leather bag on the table. "I asked Mr. to check it." Chinyu picked it up. "I believe in the credibility of the Thousand-Eye Temple. How many demonic crystals are there in total?" "Mr. is an honored guest of my Thousand-Eye Temple. You can enjoy a 20% discount. You can just pay 20,000 demonic crystals." Chinyu's heart twitched. He never thought that in Flowing Fire's records, these relatively ordinary materials would be so expensive. Luckily, he still had 20,000 demonic crystals on him. If he couldn't take them out, then he would lose face. After completing the payment, Chinyu didn't wait for Old Fox. He stood up and bid his farewells. The fox girl saw him off as usual. When Chinyu stepped out of the Thousand-Eye Temple, she hesitated for a moment and said, "Guest, you should be careful." Chinyu looked at her. "Thank you for the reminder." He stepped out of the Thousand-Eye Temple and mixed into the crowd of demons. Looking at his back, the fox girl turned and left. When she returned to the reception room, she saw Old Fox standing there, holding the magic crystal card in his hand. He left. Old Fox laid down the magic crystal card and turned around. The fox girl respectfully said, "Yes, I've already warned him to be careful, but I fear it will be difficult for him to throw off those people following him today." Old Fox lightly said, "That is his own matter. It has nothing to do with us." His eyes flashed, and he tapped the magic crystal card with his finger. Interesting. A magic crystal alchemist completed a transaction of 10 million crystals yesterday, and now he's here to buy these entry-level materials. I have no idea what he's up to. The fox girl nodded. She suddenly thought of something. "Steward, the guest that is looking for someone is urging us again. I wonder if there's any news?" Old Fox had a calm expression. "Not yet. Tell her to wait for the time being. As long as that person is really in this level of the abyss, our Thousand-Eye Temple will definitely be able to find him." "Yes." The fox girl bowed and left. From a moment he left the Thousand-Eye Temple, Yu knew that he was being watched. His eyes flashed. He didn't shake them off like he did yesterday. After thinking for a moment, he took the initiative to walk towards a remote area. Although the current giant deer city was already overcrowded with people, and there was basically no place that was peaceful, there were still some places that were blind spots in the city. Even if he caused trouble there, the demon guards wouldn't care. For instance, the alley that Yu had just entered was called Merry Forest. No matter where it was, there would always be a dark place where light couldn't penetrate. Giant Deer City's Merry Forest was such a place. In front of him was a massive pile of low buildings. There were cold and gloomy eyes staring at him from both sides. There was an invisible aura in the air that left one feeling restless and fearful. Seeing Yu enter the Merry Forest, the complexions of the chasing abyssal demons changed. There were several waves of them that hesitated before directly leaving. But not all demons feared the reputation of the Merry Forest. Although a strong dragon couldn't suppress a local snake, that was only relatively speaking. In the face of absolute strength, everything would be crushed to powder. There was certainly nothing to fear. However, the Merry Forest was infamous. Everyone was only here for wealth, so it was better to be safe. "Let's join forces. After we kill Willow Fire, we'll evenly divide the harvest." "All right." The three waves of abyssal demons that had decided to rush in reached a consensus after a brief discussion. They joined together and chased after Yu. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the deep passageway, like a drop of water falling into sand. After entering the Merry Forest, there was no need to hide anymore. The group of demons sped up and soon caught up to Yu. "Stop!" With a loud shout, an abyssal demon diabolically grinned. He lifted a hand and pressed forwards. Bang! Abyssal demonic energy erupted, turning into a great axe that fell from the skies, straight towards Yu's head. Yu didn't turn his head, but, as if he could see the attack coming from behind him, he dodged to the side. The ground cracked apart, tearing open a long hole. Many of the low buildings on both sides collapsed. Behind the windows and on both sides of the passageway, the abyssal demons that had been coldly watching Yu suddenly stood up, their gazes becoming increasingly hostile. In the air, a cold, aura flourished. The abyssal demon diabolically grinned. "We came for him. After we kill him, we'll leave. You had best not stir up trouble for yourselves." Whoosh! With the sound of breaking air, the demon's complexion changed. His eyes popped out as if he had sensed something extremely terrifying. With a strange cry, he stomped his feet and began to rapidly retreat. But at this time, a black shadow suddenly accelerated, piercing through the demon's chest and leaving behind a trail of blood. Unlike demon beasts, the blood of the abyssal demons was also red. It was just that compared to the blood of flesh and blood beings, it was a bit darker. It has been a long time since anyone has dared to cause trouble in my Merry Forest. You outsiders sure have guts. Since that's the case, none of you shall leave. Sneering coldly, the encirclement of demons parted to reveal a path for them. A young devil strode forward. He wasn't tall or burly, and was actually quite thin compared to the larger devils. However, the surrounding devils all had cold, frighteningly cold expressions on their faces as they stared at him with awe and veneration. Horned Python Race. Among the demons chasing Chinyu, one of them paled and shouted out loud. Seeing the dense, dark gray lines on the exposed flesh of the young man from the Devil Clan, the rest of the people were also horrified. They never imagined that they would encounter an expert of the horned python race in this merry forest. The abyssal races were differentiated by their bloodline. The status of the horned python race was only inferior to some powerful royal races. Even amongst the superior races, they were considered one of the best. Their race was born with infinite strength. When they grew up, a single horn would fall off their head. After being refined by demonic energy, it would become their strongest weapon. It was incomparably sharp and indestructible. And, most importantly, he had killed that abyssal demon with a single strike. He had displayed absolute strength. This was at least at the demon general level, and an outstanding one at that. Perhaps he wasn't too far away from the demon commander level. The abyssal demons that had aggressively charged in a merry forest to chase Chinyu were like balloons that had been punctured. Their arrogance vanished one by one, and the fear in their eyes became thicker and thicker. It's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. We absolutely have no intention of provoking merry forest. An abyssal demon hurriedly said. The horned python youth sneered. Trash like you think you are worthy of provoking merry forest? Die. He lifted a hand and grasped forwards. After killing that demon, the shadow that had sunk deep into the ground howled out. Puff, puff. There was a series of sounds of flesh and blood being torn apart. The sound was so dense that it made one's scalp tingle. The smell of blood in the air thickened. Run, hurry and run. The demons fled in panic. But unfortunately, they weren't fast enough. Even though they managed to escape, the shadow still caught up to them and pierced through their chests. In a short several breaths of time, the horned python youth lifted his hand, and a pitch-black spear fell into his grasp. All of the abyssal demons that chased after him died where they stood. He turned around, his icy gaze falling on Chinyu. Since you're being chased by so many people, you must be a fat sheep. Take out something on your body, and perhaps you can buy your life. Chapter 1041. It was said that those who did not think far ahead would have immediate worries. Although these words were slightly negative and inauspicious, there was still some truth to them. In Chinyu's opinion, it was necessary to maintain the fine style of being vigilant in times of peace in the abyss. Thus, after entering Giant Deer City, he had already prepared for the worst. For instance, if Liaoshi's existence was discovered by the abyssal demons, Merry Forest was the escape route that Chinyu had found for himself. This lawless, chaotic, and gloomy land where countless sins were committed every day was the best choice for him. As long as he could escape there, he might have a chance to escape this calamity. It was precisely because of this that Chinyu had some understanding of the Merry Forest. So when he heard the words of the young man from the Horned Python clan, his eyes flickered, and he revealed a trace of surprise. You can buy your life in the Merry Forest. The Horned Python youth was expressionless. I'm in a good mood today. Chinyu glanced at him and slowly shook his head. That's a bit disappointing. I don't have anything on me that I can give you for your good mood today. The Horned Python youth frowned. Do you want to die? Of course not. Chinyu smiled. Although I can be considered to have lived for a long time, I am still far from having nothing to live for. That's why we have to live. We must live. The Horned Python youth's eyes twitched. He felt that his patience had reached its limit. After several breaths of silence, he lifted a finger and said, "The exit is over there. Let's go now." Chinyu's eyebrows shot up. He immediately smiled and said, "Then, thank you." He swept his eyes over the demon corpses strewn all over the ground and sighed inwardly. He had originally wanted to borrow these abyssal demons to make another fortune. Although Chinyu didn't care much about things like demon crystals, Liaoshi wanted to become a demon refiner. This was clearly a money-burning profession, so it was better to be prepared. But now this idea had fallen through, he would think of another way. He turned and left. But today, it was destined that Yu wouldn't leave Merry Forest so easily. Just as he turned around, he heard a giggle. Black Edge, this person is in trouble. He purposely escaped into my Merry Forest. Wouldn't it be a joke if we let him go just like that? The surrounding devils quickly scattered, and a female devil led them over. She was tall and slender, comparable to an ordinary male devil. In addition to her bold clothing, her curves were all over the place. At this moment, a pair of light violet eyes were looking at the young man from the Horned Python clan, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly to reveal a trace of ridicule. Black light knitted his brows tightly before relaxing. He spoke in a faint voice. This place is under my jurisdiction. I will decide how to deal with it. Ing Feng, you should not meddle in other people's business. Since his lordship has given me the position of patrol, there's nothing in the entire Merry Forest that I can't manage. Or could it be that you, Black Edge, think too highly of yourself and dare to question his lordship's appointment? The smile on Ing Feng's face became even more obvious. Black Edge's expression was calm and unmoved. My loyalty to the Lord is not something you have the right to question. Good. Then I will personally deal with this person who dares to cause trouble and intrude into my Merry Forest. Ing Feng covered her mouth and giggled. She swept her eyes over Yu and lightly said, Go, cut off his head and hang it at the entrance. Let everyone know just how stupid it is to provoke our Merry Forest. Yes, miss. A demon behind her bowed and stepped forwards. As his eyes fell on Yu, his eyes instantly turned blood red. The smell of your body isn't bad. I will taste your blood. If it tastes good, then I will eat you. The abyssal demons possessed intelligence no less than that of humans. But all sorts of powerful demonic bloodlines flowed through their bodies, originating from the same source as the abyssal demon beasts. Because of the influence of the demonic bloodline, they had a violent and cruel nature and a bloodthirsty desire. It wasn't rare for them to swallow powerful enemies to strengthen themselves. So, what this demon said was not to scare Yu, but the true thoughts in his heart. Yu could clearly feel this. He frowned, a bit of cold intent gushing out from the depths of his heart. Because the heart of the abyss had absorbed a portion of the abyssal source, his current state was that of a true abyssal demon. But he still felt a deep disgust towards such bloody methods. Yu didn't want to complicate matters, so he was willing to leave. But since the people of Merry Forest didn't want to give up, then he would have to see just how much strength this dark land of Giant Deer City was hiding. Dong! The ground cracked apart. The crimson-eyed abyssal demon turned into a shadow and rushed forwards. Before he arrived, a cruel aura covered his mind. If one's will wasn't firm, they would be affected by this aura. Panic and fear would grow in their hearts, causing their strength to fall. He lifted his arm and punched out. The surface of his giant fist was wrapped in surging abyssal demon energy. As he tore through the air, the surrounding abyssal demons' complexions changed. This sort of strength approached that of a demon general. It was said that Miss Ing Feng was incredibly strong and had countless powerhouses under her command. Now that they saw it, it was no wonder that the Lord valued her so highly. Humph! Kuya's demon break strike is becoming more and more powerful. If he uses his full strength, even a demon general wouldn't dare to face him head-on. Killing this boy is as easy as flipping his hand. I think that if this fist falls, he can pierce through his chest and dig out his beating heart. Hee. This is Kuya's specialty. He can punch through the chest and dig out the heart, swallowing it with a flip of his hand. Kuya, be careful. Don't destroy this person's head. The miss wants to hang it at the entrance. Ing Feng coldly sneered. She glanced at Black Edge. The two of them were the most capable subordinates of the Lord, so competition was inevitable. There had already been many conflicts in the dark between them. If she killed this person today, she would lose face for Black Edge. She would gain the upper hand so that the various mountain peaks of Merry Forest would know who they should rely on the most. But as her eyes fell on Black Edge's face, Ing Feng suddenly frowned. This was because she discovered that Black Edge's expression was far too calm, as if he didn't care about what was happening in front of him. What was going on here? Without waiting for Ing Feng to think too much, a loud sound suddenly rang out, followed by the sound of bones breaking. Her heart slightly contracted, and she abruptly raised her head, only to see a large shadow flying toward her. The person was in midair, continuously spurting out blood from all 7 orifices, mixed with pieces of flesh that came from who knows where. Bang! He crashed into the ground, smashing a deep pit in the ground. Looking at Kuya lying at the bottom of the pit, it was clear that he was gasping for breath. Everyone fell, deathly silent. The demon's eyes widened, horror on their faces. They never imagined that things would end like this. Black Edge's pupil shrank. In that split second just now, he had barely managed to see Qin use attack. It was just a single strike, without any build-up or preparation. It was a straight punch, yet it sent Kuya tumbling and flying. Now, as he swept his eyes over the deep pit in the ground and saw Kuya lying there, he became increasingly solemn. This person's strength was much higher than he expected. He was absolutely at the demon general level, and his strength was tyrannical. Ing Feng looked away from Black Edge's face, an icy cold light in her eyes. For a woman of the demon race like her to have her current status, even if she ignored her own strength, she was still smart enough to react. She feared that Black Edge had long since realized that this demon in front of him wasn't someone he could provoke, so he uncharacteristically allowed him to leave. But she didn't know about this. She thought that she had found a chance to suppress Black Edge's arrogance and cause herself to fall into the pit. Or it could be said that Black Edge had already sensed her arrival and deliberately played along with her, leading her into his trap. But no matter which possibility it wasn't the key right now. The key was today's situation. If Ing Feng couldn't kill this demon in front of her, she would lose all face. She absolutely could not accept this. Taking a deep breath, Ing Feng lifted a hand and pressed down. In the pit, Kuya's neck broke. His body twitched several times before he lost all signs of life. Your injuries are too heavy. I cannot save you. But, Kuya, don't worry. I will kill this person and tear out his bones to take revenge for you. Behind her, her subordinates roared in a low voice, their eyes filled with brutality. Their suppressed arrogance burned fiercely once again. In the abyss, there was constant slaughter. They were used to seeing death. Since they couldn't be cured, there was no meaning in living. Instead, they might as well die. Moreover, Miss Ing Feng had said that she would take revenge for Kuya. Those who dared to kill them would all die a more miserable death. At this time, Black Edge suddenly spoke up. Ing Feng, I advise you to stop here and leave with your subordinates. Ing Feng was silent for a moment. Then she suddenly laughed, her chest jiggling. Large patches of white and delicate skin moved the mind. I just killed my closest subordinate with my own hands, and now you want me to stop? Black Edge, do you think I will agree? Black Edge frowned. He looked deeply at her. I'm only fulfilling my duty as a subordinate of Master. Since you don't agree, then no matter what happens, it has nothing to do with me. Ing Feng's eyes sparkled and her cheeks blushed red. She said in a soft voice, Of course, everything that happens today will be borne by me alone. She looked at Qinyu and stepped forwards. Indeed, I underestimated you. But if I can kill a powerful demon general and seize your bloodline, perhaps I can break through my current limit. An invisible aura was released from her body, instantly filling every inch of the surrounding space. The abyssal demons all had stunned expressions. Then they smiled, as if they had fallen into some incomparably wonderful dream. Black Edge frowned. He drew back several steps, avoiding the shroud of this aura. Besides him, only Ing Feng's subordinates were able to barely resist this strength that tugged at their minds. They lowered their heads, not daring to look at her. However, looking at their bodies shivering and their foreheads covered in sweat, one could see that it was extremely difficult for them to resist. In the legends, the Abyssal Sea women had the bloodline of the Nightmare royal family flowing through their bodies. They possessed an extremely formidable ability to control the mind. In the boundless abyssal sea, the sea ladies were synonymous with death. Any target that they set their eyes on would eventually disappear into the boundless sea. Perhaps they would only be discovered hundreds or thousands of years later. Those large ships that sank to the bottom of the sea, perfectly preserved but empty, had created their illustrious reputation. As for Ying Feng, strictly speaking, she belonged to a certain abyssal species that had fused with the sea women's bloodline. Not only did she obtain the sea women's ability to control the mind, but she was also able to leave the sea abyss and live on land. Of course, this was an absolute secret in Mary Forest, and Black Edge had also unintentionally found out about it. Thus, he had always dreaded Ying Feng. Although there were many conflicts between them in secret, he had endured and never erupted in front of her. This was because Black Edge wasn't confident he could resist the sea women's abilities. The strength of the abyssal races was established on their bloodline. Besides a few races, they were naturally at a disadvantage when facing the abilities of the sea women. In addition, the influence of the demonic bloodline on the mind made it easier to control. In the abyss, a demon general could be considered a powerhouse. But facing Ying Feng, they couldn't gain the upper hand, because besides the ability to control the mind, she was also a formidable demon general-level existence. Of course, because most of her strength was plundered, Ying Feng's strength was mixed. She could only be considered at the bottom of the demon generals. But no matter how low she was still a demon general. If she lost control of her mind, then unless her strength reached the demon commander level and she had the protection of abyssal demonic energy, she would undoubtedly die. Looking at Ying Feng walking towards him and feeling the strength that constantly interfered with his soul, Qin Yu was stunned. This was because he was extremely familiar with this strength, as if it were something that originally belonged to him. With just a thought, he could control it in his hand. Even this abyssal demon woman in front of him could be controlled. Feeling the heart of the abyss excitedly beating in his chest, Qin Yu thought to himself, could this be because of the nightmare bloodline? The reason he was able to successfully condense the heart of the abyss was because he borrowed the power of the dark parasol. Although after fusing with the source of the abyss, the demonic bloodline within his body had undergone a transformation, no one would doubt that he was a nightmare royal. So, Ying Feng, who had an incomplete nightmare bloodline flowing through her body, wanted to use the bewitching abilities of the nightmare race to deal with Qin Yu. How should it be said? This was no different from seeking death. Moreover, she had taken the initiative to deliver a saber into Qin Yu's hands and then put her neck in his hands. Qin Yu's complexion became increasingly strange. But now his eyes were dull and his expression was strange. In Ying Feng's eyes, this was a sign that he had fallen into her control. Although this was a bit different from what she had imagined, he was still a demon general level existence. It was reasonable for him to have some ability to resist her, so she didn't think too much about it. Her eyes turned icy cold, and Ying Feng's expression became increasingly gentle. Her ruddy complexion deepened, and her breathing quickened. She walked to Qin Yu's side and stretched out her arms, wrapping them around his neck. She gently pressed her body against his and breathed into his ear. Do you love me? Yes. Qin Yu's expression was wooden. If you love me, then kill yourself, okay? Okay. Qin Yu didn't hesitate. He turned his hand and thrust it into his neck. Blood instantly gushed out, splashing onto Ying Feng. She took a deep breath. The taste of this blood was so delicious that it left her completely intoxicated. Without any hesitation, Ying Feng leaned against Qin Yu's neck and opened her mouth to gulp down great mouthfuls of blood. With every mouthful, she could feel a change occurring within her body. A formidable strength constantly rose from her body, surging into her limbs and bones. The bottleneck that had plagued her for so many years was instantly broken. This is it. Let the strength come even more fiercely. Ying Feng screamed in excitement. She swallowed even faster. As for Qin Yu, the blood in his body seemed endless, violently gushing out. The strength within her body grew stronger and stronger. Finally, it broke through a certain limit. Ing Feng felt as if she had entered a completely new realm. This was a powerful will that felt as if the surrounding world was in her grasp. With a single thought, she could mobilize the endless abyss demon energy for her own use. Demon Commander. This was the Demon Commander realm. Tears flowed down from her eyes. Ing Feng trembled as she released Qinyu. She looked at her hands and muttered, Demon Commander. I broke into the Demon Commander realm. Mother, do you see? I became a Demon Commander. Those who harmed you, those who expelled us, they will all pay the most tragic and despairing price for their actions. Your daughter guarantees you that I will send all of them into the most terrifying abyss of purgatory, where they will howl for all eternity. Ing Feng laughed after she cried. Then, she looked at the dead Qinyu, who was still crazily gushing blood from the wound on his neck. No, Demon Commander is not enough. I will become the Supreme King and control the will of the abyss to thoroughly destroy them. She threw herself at Qinyu. She opened her mouth and bit down on the wound, crazily swallowing blood. Black light felt as if he had fallen into an icy lake. He froze where he was. As he looked at Ing Feng, who was lying on the ground, constantly biting and swallowing dirt, his face paled. Although he had already expected that Qinyu would not be easy to deal with, he never imagined that he would be formidable to such a degree. Demon General, no, absolutely not. To be able to make Ing Feng fall into an illusion without any resistance. How could such a powerful ability be possessed by someone at the level of a Demon General? Could it be that he was a Demon Commander? As he thought of this, Blacklight's face paled even more. He could not suppress the panic and despair in his eyes. As a superior Demon General, he was even more aware of the terrifying power that a Demon Commander could possess. Even if there were 10 of him joining forces, they would still be completely crushed when facing a Demon Commander. This was because a Demon Commander and a Demon General might seem to only be a single rank apart, but it represented two completely different species. The difference in strength was like heaven and earth. Qinyu's gaze fell on him. With just a thought, he could guess what this boy was thinking. It seemed that his performance had completely frightened this young powerhouse of the horned python race. As his thoughts raced, Qinyu's gaze changed. He looked up ahead. In the next moment, a calm voice sounded in his ears. My subordinates had eyes, but failed to see. They have offended you. I ask that you show mercy and let them live. The tone was calm, but there was a faint, cold aura that wrapped around his body, causing one to shudder. It was like in the next moment, a trillion fine needles would fall down, ripping apart one's soul. Demon Commander. With a thought, he could mobilize the abyssal demonic energy for his own use. There was no other possibility for such a method. Qinyu was expressionless. After confronting this aura for several breaths of time, he turned and left. Who? Black light fell to the ground. He gasped for breath, sweat dripping down his body. He had never felt that death was so close to him. It was like he would be swallowed up in the next moment. Chapter 1042. Qinyu left Merry Forest amidst many awestruck gazes. As he looked back at this area filled with low buildings, he couldn't help but narrow his eyes. To be able to control an entire area in a massive giant deer city and become the true ruler, there was indeed a reason for this. Demon Commander. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Qinyu wouldn't have believed it. A dignified powerhouse that stood at the peak of the abyss would actually be willing to hide in such a small and narrow place. That's right, although Merry Forest was infamous, it was an unregulated area of giant deer city that occupied nearly a fifth of the entire city. But to a Demon Commander, this place was far, far too small. It was like a great dragon that had drilled into a small pond. It simply couldn't stretch out. Indeed, the longer one lived in this world, the more one would encounter all sorts of strange things. But it wasn't like he didn't have any harvests. Facing this Demon Commander that was hiding in Merry Forest, Qinyu felt that he could still face him head-on. This allowed him to have an approximate understanding of his own strength. After the heart of the abyss fused with the abyss source, it had given him a great surprise. The only pity was that this strength could only be obtained in the abyss. Once Qin Yu returned to the world of the living, the abilities he obtained from the abyss would likely be sealed away, just like his current cultivation. Shaking his head, Qin Yu cast these thoughts aside and turned to leave. This time, he smoothly returned to his courtyard. He had made a great fortune from willow fire. In addition, in order to ensure Liao Shi's safety, Qin Yu had spent a great deal of thought to purchase this courtyard. It wasn't too far from the giant Deer City Lord's residence in a straight line. So, even though there were undercurrents surging in giant Deer City and there were many conflicts and frictions, this area was still relatively safe. After inspecting the arrangements and making sure no one had triggered anything, Qin Yu closed the courtyard doors. The impatient Liao Shi stared at him with wide eyes. "What took you so long? Hurry and give me the things." Qin Yu's lips twitched. He thought if it weren't for the fact that you went crazy and insisted on becoming an abyssal demon refiner, I wouldn't have to go through all this trouble. If it weren't for the fact that I needed your help in unraveling the myriad soul Tao, I wouldn't care how you died, he thought to himself, but didn't reveal anything on his face. He took out the demonic leather bag and said, "Everything you want is here." Liao Shi grabbed it and flipped through it carefully, and a hint of delight appeared on his face. However, a hint of wariness soon surfaced on his face. "You seem to be treating me nicely, but were you cursing me in your heart just now?" Qin Yu nearly choked on his saliva. Was this a woman's intuition, or was it some sort of mind-reading supernatural ability that he didn't know about? "I can tell from your expression that I must have guessed correctly. I'm warning you, you'd better not scold me. My senses are very accurate." Qin Yu turned around and walked away. "I don't know what you're talking about." It was clearly not a wise choice to be entangled with her on this topic. "Hey, remember to read what I give you. Don't wait until I need your help, and you still don't know anything. As the future strongest fiend refiner in the abyss, failure would be the greatest insult to me. I will be very angry." A threat. This was definitely a blatant threat. Qin Yu nodded with a dark expression. When he heard the door close behind him, he bitterly smiled and sat down in the courtyard. Thinking for a moment, he took out the magic crystal card that Liao Shi had given him and probed it with his divine sense. He had to take a look. If the refinement really failed because of him, who knew what kind of tricks this woman would come up with? Although he hadn't come into contact with the fiend refiner profession before, Qin Yu could still be considered an alchemy grandmaster. Moreover, he had even been a beast trainer grandmaster for a period of time. Perhaps it was because there were some similarities between these several professions, so Qin Yu soon immersed himself in them. Some things didn't seem too difficult to understand. Gradually, Qin Yu gained an intuitive understanding of the fiend refiner profession. At the very least, he had a general understanding of it. Of course, this didn't mean that Qin Yu had become an abyssal fiend refiner. To be more accurate, he was still far from it. At most, he had an elementary understanding of fiend refinement. Qin Yu, hurry and come in." Her urgent voice was accompanied by a slight gasp for breath. As it fell into his ears, it caused his imagination to run wild. Qin Yu woke up with a start, a helpless look on his face. This woman Liao Shi was becoming more and more strange recently. He always felt that something was wrong. Why did she have to use such a voice to call out to someone? If he didn't understand, he would think that he was doing something with her. Although he ridiculed her in his heart, Qin Yu didn't dare to delay. His figure flickered, and he flew into her room like a fleeting shadow. As soon as he saw her, Qin Yu's face froze. Who knew what problems had occurred during the refinement process? Her clothes had been fine just a moment ago, but now they were torn in many places, and there were even burn marks, revealing large swathes of her fair skin. The degree of her nakedness was even more eye-catching than what Qin Yu had seen yesterday. It was enough to make one's nose bleed. "What are you standing around for? It's your turn. Hurry up and pour in the abyssal demon energy. Remember, you have to be very, very gentle. They're too weak right now and can't withstand the slightest fluctuation." A ball of light floated in front of Liao Shi. All sorts of mottled lights surged, sometimes red, sometimes green, and sometimes blue. It gave off an incomparably chaotic feeling, as if it could explode at any moment. Taking a deep breath to calm his mind, Qingyu braced himself and walked over. Before he could do anything, Liao sure hugged him tightly. "Hurry up and do it. I will tell you how much demonic energy you need to pour in through my senses." This woman, being caught off guard by her hug, Qingyu almost jumped in fright. If he really did that, even the slightest fluctuation of energy would spread, and the ball of light in front of him would be destroyed. Qingyu tried his best not to feel the astonishing sensation of contact. He steadied his mind and slowly circulated the demonic energy in his body. As soon as he moved, Liaoshe lowered her voice and said, "Slow down, a little slower. You're using too much demonic energy." "Yes, reduce it by a third, and the flow can be slightly faster. Do you see the changes in the light? After they stabilize, continue pouring it in like this for 3 breaths of time. Increase the demonic energy output by 3 times. Faster. I have to be decisive and need these disobedient little things together. I'm about to succeed. That's the tempo. Just maintain it for a little longer, and you can retreat. Leave the rest to me. All right, you can leave now. Close the door and don't disturb me." Qingyu exited the room and closed the door gently. Only then did he let out a long sigh of relief. He subconsciously raised his hand to wipe the beads of sweat off his forehead. Given his mental fortitude, he wasn't nervous at all when it came to supplying some demonic energy. The key was that Liaoshe, in order not to affect the forging process, she had been whispering into his ears the entire time. It was only today that Qingyu truly understood the meaning of this phrase. Although Qingyu was dissatisfied with Liaoshe, her aura was truly refreshing to the heart and mind. Only the heavens knew how much effort it took for Qingyu to not make a fool of himself. Qingyu turned his head to look at the door and bitterly smiled. He thought that this assistant's job was a bit too uncomfortable. This definitely wasn't an act of showing off after taking advantage of her. The key was that Qingyu already knew that Liaoshe wasn't someone to be trifled with. Moreover, she had even vaguely confirmed this point. If he took advantage of her now, who knew what kind of price he would have to pay in the future? Qinyu's intuition told him that this was a situation he absolutely didn't want to face. Calm down, calm down. I can't be blinded by this woman's tricks. Who knows when she will turn against me? An hour later, Liaoshe, who was dressed in tattered clothes and had a deranged appearance, rushed out of the room. She was even more eye-catching than Qingyu. She was holding a black pill in her hands. Success. Success. Ha ha. I knew that I was a true genius. I will definitely become the strongest demon refiner in the abyss in the future. Qingyu looked at the 2 little rabbits that were jumping up and down as she moved. He took a deep breath, silently praying that he couldn't see anything. All the pink skulls were fleeting clouds, so he mustn't be blinded by them. Of course, only Qingyu knew how effective it would be. But looking at his lowered head, it didn't seem to be too good. However, Liaoshe had actually succeeded in refining a potion. This was a bit beyond Qinyu's expectations. But thinking about it carefully, she had even refined the pendant of hypocrisy that could conceal one's aura. This sort of elementary potion didn't seem like much at all. Of course, the potion had been refined, but as to how effective it was, he needed to test it out before he knew. Following that, Qingyu decisively rejected Liaoshe's suggestion to have him test the potion. No matter how she curled her lips, Qingyu remained expressionless. Nonsense. If you want me to test the potion, then I'll do it. Whose fault will it be if I die? Qingyu, since you don't know how to appreciate my kindness, then go and capture a few abyssal demons. Remember, you must injure them. I want to see how the potion works. Qinyu's lips twitched as he heard this. He thought to himself, do you think you can get injured just because you want to? In the end, I have to do it. But when he left the door, Qingyu suddenly discovered that Liaoshe's words were quite accurate. An abyssal demon was lying not too far away from the door. There was a large pool of blood beneath his body. Although there were many demons coming and going, none of them stopped at all. The beast tide was approaching. Everyone was racking their brains, thinking of how to survive this calamity. Who would have the mind to care about the life and death of others? Chinyu glanced around. Then he reached out and grabbed the person, turned around, and pushed open the door. Such heavy injuries should be enough to satisfy you, right? It feels quite sturdy. Such a large body, it must be good material. Seeing Chinyu turn around and leave with such a heavily injured abyssal demon, Liao Shi was pleasantly surprised. She repeatedly told him to put the person down. But when it was time to save the person, she was a bit lost. After thinking for a long time, she took out 3 black potions and had Chinyu mix them with water and force them into the person's mouth. The unconscious abyssal demon soon twitched. His face was fierce, and blood wildly gushed out from his wounds. After several moments, there was no more movement. Liao Shi was stunned. "He's dead." Chinyu inspected him and said, "Not yet, but he's almost there." His lips twitched, and he rubbed his temples. "Was this what you meant by not appreciating someone's good intentions?" His stomach had been torn open and wrapped up. Even after bleeding all over the ground, he still hadn't died. Such a strong abyssal demon had died in just 2 or 3 moves. Luckily, I firmly refused, otherwise the one lying on the ground right now would have been me. That's not right. How could this be? The potions I refined were absolutely correct. This shouldn't be the result. Liao Shi had an incredulous expression. Seeing this, Qin Yu's complexion darkened even further. This demon was about to die, and you still say it's impossible? Ha ha ha, you really are blind. Don't let him suffer. Let me kill him, and that will be a release. As Qin Yu spoke, he was about to attack. Liao Shi screamed, "Don't move. This is my first test subject. I absolutely cannot kill him." Qin Yu had no expression. I can't guarantee that in his current state, this demon won't explode with a bang. If you're caught up in it, don't blame me for not warning you. Liao Shi bit his lips. In any case, you can't kill him, then throw him out the door. What if he survives? Qin Yu chuckled inwardly. Speaking of this demon, he had thrown him far away from the door. Otherwise, if he really died at the door, it would be troublesome. Women were unreasonable. If he killed him and destroyed his corpse, there's no need to go through so much trouble. Qin Yu, believe me, there is definitely no problem with the potions. Why don't you try it yourself? Perhaps it's because of that demon's physique, and he can't use the potions I refined? Liao Shi earnestly said. Qin Yu pointed to his forehead. Do I look stupid to you? He turned and walked away. It was impossible to test the potions. No matter what, it was impossible. You could go crazy however you want, but I won't accompany you any longer. Behind him, Liao Shi's nagging continued. Something's wrong? How could this be? I can't be wrong. My name is Sledgehammer. That's right, it's Sledgehammer, Sledgehammer, Sledgehammer. To us abyssal demons, a name is nothing more than a code name. It has no meaning at all. As long as you are strong enough, no one will laugh at you. This is what my father told me. He also told me that as a descendant of the Raging Ox tribe, no matter what, I cannot admit defeat. No matter who it is, as long as they dare to speak, then there is no need to say anything, and we will face them head on. I think that what my father said is reasonable, so I have always done so. Wherever the sledgehammer went, anyone who dared to jump out would be smashed to the ground. But as the saying goes, if one walks by the river for too long, how can one's shoes not be wet? I, Neo Sledgehammer, have rampaged through the abyss for so many years, and now I have finally met my match. That was a mongrel from the Raging Tiger tribe. He actually dared to call me stupid. I don't care how strong you are, I will roll up my sleeves and fight. The process was too painful, and I don't want to recall it. In the end, when I really couldn't win against him, I suddenly twisted one of his arms and ran away. My intestines drooped out, and I casually wrapped them with some paste. I don't know how far I ran, but my vision darkened and I collapsed. I originally thought that I was dead for sure, but who can tell me how I came back to life in a pile of corpses? Moreover, my Neo Sledgehammer's arms and thighs are clearly thicker than before. I can clearly feel an incomparably powerful strength running through them. Could this be the so-called good fortune after surviving a great disaster? Did my bloodline evolve? After walking out of the pile of corpses, I found a river and washed my body. Looking at my reflection in the river, I saw two thick black horns on my head, and I couldn't help but cry. Father, so you weren't bragging. Our ancestor really is a black demon ox. Your son has awakened again today. It is our ancestor's bloodline. Don't worry, Sledgehammer will definitely make our ox family famous in the abyss. I will also find you a few daughters-in-law and give birth to a few hundred children to continue our ox family bloodline. But now, I have something more important to do. If the raging tiger tribe dares to fight me head-on, your grandpa Sledgehammer has returned. This time, your grandpa Sledgehammer will definitely let you understand what is called a fist as big as an alms bowl, and what is called a different kind of red flower. Chapter 1043. The beast tide that the entire abyss was waiting for had finally erupted. Even though they were far away from the city walls, they could still hear the heaven-shaking sounds of battle. Occasionally, there would be heaven-shaking explosions, and they could feel the ground beneath their feet tremble. Today's Julu city was more chaotic than ever. The abyssal demons hurrying to and fro on the streets all had panic on their faces. Occasionally, there would be a few words. It seemed that some changes had occurred in the beast tide. The number of demon beasts gathered outside the city was far greater than in the past, and it was still increasing. However, Cheney did not care much about these things. No matter how many demon beasts there were, they would only cause casualties among the abyssal demons. As for whether Julu City would be breached, not to mention that Julu City was a natural stronghold, it had a strong defense, and there were countless powerhouses in the city. There had never been an accident in the tens of millions of years of beast tides. Of course, even if Julu City was really breached by the beast tide, so what? Cheney was confident that with his strength, even if he brought along a burden like Liao Shi, he could escape faster than most abyssal demons. After the city was breached, there would be great chaos. The demon beasts would be busy killing and devouring flesh and blood, so it would not be difficult for him to escape in the chaos. Thus, this matter only lingered in Shin Yu's mind for a brief moment before he threw it to the back of his mind. A moment later, he stopped and looked up. The Thousand-Eye Temple was already in sight. Looking at the flow of people entering and exiting, Shin Yu sighed. The business here was getting better day by day. The green-tailed demon at the entrance seemed a bit weak because he had used up too much energy. He only nodded when he saw Shin Yu and hurried to greet other customers. It was not that he was deliberately neglecting them, but because of the beast tide, the Thousand-Eye Temple had been crazily selling all kinds of goods. Even though the price had risen again and again, the sales continued to rise. In just these 2 or 3 days, there were 7 or 8 large orders worth over 10 million. It was said that the highest was over 40 million demon crystals. Naturally, in this busy situation, the treatment Shin Yu received in the Thousand-Eye Temple was greatly reduced. However, this result was more in line with Shin Yu's intentions. Because he was not buying anything today, he was selling things. That's right. What Shin Yu wanted to sell was the batch of potions that Liao Shi had refined a few days ago. She had given it a resounding name, Vigorous Ascension Pill. The strength was indeed very great, and it could also help people ascend to the heavens. Previously, that ridiculously strong and sturdy demon who was heavily injured but didn't die was easily taken care of by just 3 pills. Although he didn't see the demon's corpse later, it was likely that it had been taken care of by the demon guards. But according to Shin Yu's inspection, it was basically hopeless. TSK. Shin Yu really couldn't figure out. The truth was right before his eyes. So how could Liao Shi still have the face to come up with such a name? Furthermore, what was even more unacceptable to him was that Liao Shi had actually asked him to sell the Heaven Ascension pills in exchange for demonic crystals so that he could purchase more materials. From what she had said, there might have been a very small accident with the Heavenly Ascension pill this time. However, as long as she was just a little more serious, there would definitely be no problem. The next time she refined the potion, it would definitely be perfect. Of course, Shin Yu didn't care about these words at all. So what if he didn't take it seriously? So what if he couldn't accept it? Facing Liao Shi's shameless pestering, he could only pinch his nose and come out to sell her heaven ascension pills. It wasn't that Qin Yu hadn't thought of going out and finding a place to throw away the potion. Then he could find some abyssal demons to chat with and borrow their demonic crystals. But Liao Shi seemed to have already thought of this possibility. She demanded that Qin Yu bring the transaction proof back to her. Otherwise, this matter wouldn't end here. Thus, he had come to this place again today. Following the dense stream of people, he squeezed into the Thousand-Eye Temple. 2 days ago, the temple had already been extremely noisy. Now, the volume of noise had risen by 2 or 3 levels. Every subordinate demon of the Thousand-Eye Temple was surrounded by a group of people who were dealing with all sorts of questions. There was also a long line of people at the trading counter. Qin Yu glanced around and decisively gave up on the idea of asking people. In any case, the line was quite long, so he casually found someone to stand at the back. There was no need to doubt the strength of the Thousand-Eye Temple. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for them to blossom in every level of the abyss and establish countless branches. No demon dared to cause trouble here, so although the queue was slow, it was smooth and no accidents occurred. Finally, it was Qin Yu's turn. Behind the counter was a demoness of the demon rabbit race. Compared to other demons, this was a type that had a rather gentle personality. It was said that the entire demon race was discussing the issue of vegetarianism and rejecting any bloodshed. As for why this could be seen at a glance, it was because of the 2 drooping white rabbit ears on her head. In addition, she was wearing a typical rabbit dress. At the very least, in Qin Yu's eyes, this outfit was quite pleasing to the eye. "Dear guest, how are you? What do you need?" Although she was tired, the rabbit girl still revealed a sweet smile. Qin Yu sat down and placed a bottle on the table. "Cough. I have some potions here. Do you want to buy them?" He seemed calm, but when he said this, he didn't have much confidence in his heart. He was afraid that someone would throw the bottle at his face. The rabbit girl was startled. She didn't think that there would be people selling potions during the beast tide outbreak. All the demons should be desperately trying to buy them. But this wasn't the key point. If it was a qualified potion, the Thousand-Eye Temple could buy it and sell it, and they would be able to earn demonic crystals. "I will." Looking at the potions on the table, the rabbit girl continued. "But before the transaction, we need to do an inspection. You might have to wait a bit." Qin Yu stood up. "No problem. I'll wait on the side." The rabbit girl smiled sweetly. "Then we'll trouble you. We will do it as soon as possible." She handed the bottle to a demon and invited the next customer to take care of it. Perhaps the Thousand-Eye Temple's business was too good, or perhaps the potions Qin Yu was selling were not worth mentioning in their eyes. After waiting for a long time, the appraisal results came out. A normal quality healing potion was worth 22,000 demonic crystals. But this was already beyond Qin Yu's expectations. He couldn't help but doubt the Thousand-Eye Temple's appraisal standards. Were they sure that this was an ordinary healing potion? Haha, please understand the name of the Great Strength Heaven Ascension Pill. Of course, Qin Yu wouldn't bother reminding them. As for who these pills would end up being sold to and what kind of storm it would cause, that wasn't something he needed to worry about. As for the price, he didn't have any objections. And strictly speaking, not including the discount the fox girl gave him last time, Liao Shi was still making a profit. 22,000 demonic crystals. Please accept it. The rabbit girl spoke even faster as she handed a magic leather bag to Qin Yu. Please give me a transaction certificate. The name of the demon refiner is Cough Cough. Abyss number 1. Qin Yu's face darkened. This was one of the reasons why he had come to the Thousand-Eye Temple to make a transaction. If he wanted to leave his name, then so be it. Why did he have to be so impolite? He was simply trying to swallow the heavens. Sure enough, all of the surrounding devils, including the rabbit girl, were looking at him with extremely strange expressions. They were basically saying, "Brother, you're so arrogant. So how did you survive until today in our massive abyss? It will take some time to issue the certificate. If you're willing to wait, then there is no problem." Qin Yu nodded. "Do it." If he couldn't get the certificate back, that woman Liao Shi wouldn't give up. After waiting for a long time, he finally obtained a certificate from the rabbit girl. Then he turned and left the Thousand-Eye Temple. Although he didn't make any noise this time, it didn't mean that no one had noticed his existence. There were some people in the Thousand-Eye Temple who had seen Chinyu before, and their expressions changed slightly as fear appeared in their eyes. They had thought that Chinyu had disappeared for the past 2 days because he had been killed. They didn't expect him to appear again today. However, there was still no news from some of the people who had followed it before. Thinking about it, this person was not to be trifled with. Many demons secretly rejoiced that they hadn't made a move. Otherwise, they might have been the ones to disappear today. Apart from that, there was also someone who had noticed Chinyu's arrival. It was the seductive fox girl. When she was sending off a customer, she accidentally saw Chinyu. After thinking about it, she didn't go up to him. But after Chinyu left, she found someone to ask about his actions today. Selling potions? The fox girl frowned, a puzzled look in her eyes. With the wealth that Lu Hua had displayed in his first transaction, there was no need to do so. Moreover, he was only selling some ordinary healing potions. After asking about the type, she immediately recalled that the second batch of materials that Lu Hua had bought from the Thousand-Eye Temple just so happened to be the materials needed to refine these ordinary healing potions. Waving her hand, the fox girl sent away the demons in front of her. She returned to the guest room and walked behind the resting old fox. She whispered what had happened. Elder Fox raised his hand and massaged his eyebrows. There's no need to bother about Lu Hua anymore. I've obtained some information about him. He's just a demon refiner with a little fame in a remote area. His net worth is not much. The 10 million magical crystals from the first transaction are almost all gone. Speaking to her, he paused. He remembered the first time he saw Lu Perhaps it was just an illusion. How could a little demon refiner give him any pressure? Of course, he couldn't bring the 22,000 demon crystals back. Chinyu walked around and exchanged them for materials near the Thousand-Eye Temple. As for why he didn't directly buy it from the Thousand-Eye Temple, it was because he couldn't stand the caring gazes of the people in the Thousand-Eye Temple. But more importantly, Chinyu didn't want to have any more contact with the people in the Thousand-Eye Temple. For example, that fox girl who had seen him but pretended not to know him. He didn't want her to be curious about him because of the difference in their previous transaction. In reality, Chinyu didn't think too much about it. The fox girl was indeed curious, but she had been dispelled by the old fox. She even secretly rejoiced that he hadn't taken too much advantage of her. Without the VIP discount from the Thousand-Eye Temple, and with the skyrocketing price of materials in Jilu City, the 22,000 demon crystals were only enough to buy less than half of what he had originally spent. This made Liao Shi very dissatisfied. She felt that Chinyu was too useless. He had used the potions that she had carefully refined to exchange for these few things. If it wasn't for the fact that this woman was still useful and that he was a little afraid of her, Chinyu would have made her understand how serious the consequences of speaking carelessly were. He made another note in his notebook and endured it for now. A black demon ox race member called Nyodachui had recently become famous in Jilu City. The reason for this was naturally not because he had used his alms bowl-sized fist to kill a tiger mastiff hybrid demon on the spot, but because of his bizarre self-transformation experience. After a great battle, he had almost been torn to shreds. Who would have thought that he would survive and even transform his bloodline instead? Indeed, there were cases in the Abyss where one's bloodline awakened because they had suffered heavy injuries and were on the brink of death. For a period of time, there were even many Abyss demons who deliberately used this method to stimulate their bloodline and become even more powerful. But without exception, these attempts all ended in failure. After countless Abyss demons died, these methods were eventually abandoned. But today, a living example had appeared in front of them. Nyodachui had suddenly become the target of envy. It was said that an old and frail black demon ox expert had heard of this matter and said that he wanted Nyodachui to be the man of his 8 daughters, so that the black demon ox bloodline could continue to flourish. Leaving aside the question of whether Nyodachui could withstand the 8 majestic and strong black demon ox women, just this experience alone was enough to make people envious. After the city lord's mansion deliberately spread the news, Nyodachui had already become the target of the abyss demons who were defending the city walls against the beast tide. Perhaps I can also awaken a stronger bloodline during this tempering? That was what Big Mountain of the Wind Wolf race thought. As a member of the abyss demon tribe known for their speed, Big Mountain could not understand why his parents would give him such a name. It seemed that there had been a lot of confusion regarding his name recently. In the future, he would try to reduce it as much as possible. In short, Big Mountain felt that he was not inferior to Nyodachui in any way. If Nyodachui could awaken his bloodline, then he would not necessarily die. With all these thoughts in his mind, Big Mountain looked down at his nearly torn chest and couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of black blood. His vision darkened. Then, the heroic spirit in his heart instantly dissipated such heavy injuries, and they were also highly toxic. Without the antidote, it would be very difficult for him to survive. I'm still so young. Although I have interacted with many female demon tribe members, I did not leave behind any bloodline. I'm not willing to die like this. Trembling, Big Mountain took out a few magic medicines from his bosom. These were the healing magic medicines that he had spent a large sum of money to buy from the Thousand Eye Palace before he was sent to the city walls. Although the quality was only ordinary, the reputation of the Thousand Eye Palace was still very good. Hopefully, they would do something for him. Randomly grabbing a handful of them, he stuffed them into his mouth, chewed a few times, and swallowed them with great effort. Big Mountain held the wound on his chest. After a while, his eyes suddenly widened, and his body suddenly twitched a few times before he fell to the ground. Quick, quick, quick! Another one has been poisoned. Quickly throw him off the city walls. We definitely cannot let the demon beasts take him as rations. With a plop, the Wind Wolf race's Big Mountain was thrown off the city walls. He became one of the corpses and was buried in the blink of an eye. Chapter 1044. I was very, very serious this time. There is absolutely no problem with the potion I refined. Chinyu, what kind of look is that? I'm telling the truth. You must believe in my professionalism. Liao Shi had a dissatisfied expression. Her lips curled into an arc that was big enough to hang a row of oil bottles on them. You've only known about the existence of demon refiners for less than 10 days. You want me to believe in your professionalism? Like hell, I'll believe you. Moreover, although I don't know how you managed to sell the potion you refined, I saw the effects with my own eyes. Whoever bought it would be unlucky. Chinyu, because of your incomparably excessive actions, I have been injured and my heart is filled with grief. My emotions are about to violently fluctuate, and it is likely that my aura will leak out. Liao Shi was expressionless. She glanced at Chinyu from the corner of her eyes. Her meaning could be summarized as, I can't control myself any longer, so hurry up and do as you see fit. Chinyu paled. His cheeks trembled several times. He gritted his teeth and roared, What do you want now? Liao Shi stretched out two slender fingers. With a light pop, she said, Simple. Sell the potion I refined. I want you to see with your own eyes just how popular they are. It is enough to make all the demons in the abyss go crazy for them. I vomit. Chinyu's face darkened so much that it seemed as if water would drip from it. Their gazes collided in midair, neither willing to back down. After a long time, he took a deep breath and said, I'll catch some demons for you to experiment on. Haha, the beast tide has already erupted, and the city lore mansion is trying to think of ways to send the demons up the city walls to defend against the invasion of demon beasts. You want to try catching some people now? Once you're discovered, you'll be the first one to be sent up the wall. Liao Shi traced the bottle in her hand, her face filled with pride and gentleness. Moreover, do you think just any demon has the qualifications to use the potion I refined? Even if they don't need to bathe and change clothes, they should at least spend a great deal of money to buy it. Because of this, the two argued for a long time. Finally, Chinyu admitted defeat once more. Of course, Liao Shi was also forced to make concessions. This was the last time Chinyu would help her sell the potion she refined. In the future, she couldn't use this as an excuse to pester him. After leaving the courtyard and closing the door, Qin Yu's lips twitched. Liao sure had agreed so quickly just now, and it was precisely because she had agreed so quickly that he felt uneasy. Based on his understanding of Liao Sure, it was highly likely that she would renege on her promise. Qin Yu rubbed his temples with a headache. He took a deep breath and suppressed his chaotic thoughts. Then, he walked out the door. Of course, he couldn't go to the Thousand Eye Palace anymore. He didn't know what would happen to the potions he had sold to them before, so he didn't want to take the initiative to deliver them to them. Fortunately, in the huge Jilu city, other than the Thousand Eye Temple, there were many other places that sold potions. Stop! With a loud shout, a squad of demon guards blocked Qin Yu's way. The one leading them had a scar on his face and a fierce expression. He coldly swept his eyes over Qin Yu and said, "Take out your identity card." Qin Yu took out a black iron token. The back of the token was engraved with the seal of Jilu City. This was the proof that he was a native of this place. Once again, he had to thank Lu Hua, who was already dead, for contributing a large amount of magical crystals, allowing Qin Yu to buy that small courtyard at a high price. Otherwise, the foreign demons would have to climb up the city walls to defend against the beast tide. After inspecting the place, they handed the iron token to Qin Yu and hurriedly left. Today, there were fewer people on the streets. The people coming and going were even more hurried. Qin Yu thought about the demons of Jilu City. They were being baptized by the calamity, and who knew how many would die every day. But no matter how he thought about it, it was hard for him to feel compassion for them. It was as if the more that died, the better. He decided not to think about it for now. He had to find a place to sell off this pile of hot potions. In Jilu City, another person's bloodline underwent a transformation at the critical moment of life and death. This time, the lucky one was a wind wolf called Big Mountain. Of course, this wasn't the right way to address him. He should be called Sir Big Mountain of the Silver Moon Wolf race. This was because, among the races of the Abyss, the Silver Moon Wolf race had a royal bloodline. The king of their race was called the Howling Moon Wolf King. They were incomparably powerful, and there were many legends about them in the Abyss. First, it was the Black Demon Bull bloodline. Today, the Silver Moon royal race had appeared. Although the impact of the beast tide made the people of Jilu City anxious, many people's eyes brightened. A single bloodline transformation might have been a lucky coincidence, but for it to happen twice in a row, this couldn't be explained with just the word coincidence. In Jilu City, undercurrents began to appear. In areas that ordinary people couldn't detect, people began to search for the reason why Big Hammer Neo and Big Mountain of the Wind Wolf race had undergone a bloodline transformation. His long silver hair had become much more handsome, and his every movement exuded an intimidating aura. Of course, he knew that the transformation of his bloodline was completely different from the so-called transformation of his bloodline when he was gravely injured and had a firm will. In the end, when he fought against the shadow of death, the transformation of his bloodline was completely unrelated. He looked up at the giant signboard of the Thousand Eye Temple. Then, Big Mountain adjusted his hood and took a deep breath before stepping inside. Of course, he didn't hide his appearance to pretend to be mysterious. Rather, he had already faintly felt that something was wrong. "How many ordinary healing potions do you need?" Big Mountain took out a bottle and lowered his voice. "I want potions refined by this, the first Lord of the Abyss. How many do you have?" The rabbit girl behind the counter was stunned. This was because she still had some impression of this name, but because it was too deafening, it would take a long time to forget it. She lightly coughed and smiled. "Our Thousand Eye Temple's potions will only be officially sold to the public after they pass the inspection. The effects will all be the same." "No, I only want potions refined by the First Lord of the Abyss. The price is negotiable. Give them all to me." Big Mountain frowned. At this time, the crowd behind him parted and the fox girl seductively walked in. She smiled and said, "Dear customer, our Thousand Eye Temple can satisfy your request, but it will take some time to prepare. Please follow me into the reception room and wait." Big Mountain's complexion changed. He took a step back and said, "I still have matters to attend to. I will come back later." The fox girl took a step forward and grabbed his arm. In a voice that only the two of them could hear, she slowly said, "Sir Big Mountain, the Silver Moon royal bloodline in your body is something that many people covet. Normally, no one would dare to provoke someone with a royal bloodline, but now that the beast tide is attacking the city, casualties are unavoidable. Moreover, it will be difficult to investigate the matter afterwards. According to what my Thousand Eye Palace knows, there is already a Wolf Clan powerhouse in Merry Forest who has placed an order to take your bloodline. If you leave just like that, something might happen." Underneath his robes, Big Mountain's face paled. This was the greatest fear in his heart. The fox girl continued to say, "Sir Big Mountain, my Thousand Eye Temple still has some deterrence. How about you stay here for now? At least you will be safe." A moment later, in a beautifully decorated reception room, Big Mountain was holding a cup of tea brewed by the fox girl. He let out a sigh and revealed a dejected expression. "I can tell you, but the Thousand Eye Temple must guarantee my safety." Old Fox smiled. "From today onwards, Sir Big Mountain is a guest of my Thousand Eye Temple in Jilu City." Big Mountain was silent for a moment. He clenched his teeth and said, "Yesterday, when I was on the verge of death, I took the healing potions I bought from you. At that time, I wasn't unconscious, so I was able to sense something." He pursed his lips and continued to say, "The reason why I was able to awaken my bloodline is most likely because I took those potions." Old Fox frowned. He said in a low voice, "Guess Big Mountain, you mean that some ordinary healing potions were able to awaken your bloodline?" "That's right. That is why I came here, hoping to buy some more." After saying this, Big Mountain felt much more relaxed. He took out the bottle he had hidden in his chest and placed it on the table. "The potions I bought were placed in this bottle. I carefully examined it and found that the words 'First in the Abyss' are engraved on the bottom. This should be the mark of the person who refined the potions." Old Fox's lips twitched. First in the Abyss, what big words. But if what Big Mountain said was true, then his title of First in the Abyss was quite appropriate. The Abyss was endless and had millions of races. Although the profession of demon refiner was rare, there were still many of them in the entire Abyss. The top existences were called Abyss Walkers. They had a status that was comparable to the Abyss King. In some ways, the influence of an Abyss Walker was even greater than that of an Abyss King. Because the reason why these top demon refiners were called Abyss Walkers was because they had the ability to change fate, awaken their bloodline. As mentioned before, the races of the Abyss were a species built on the bloodline of a demon. The level of their reincarnation basically determined their future achievements. Of course, this was not absolute, because over the long years, after all sorts of hybridization, it was very difficult to find an absolutely pure bloodline in the entire Abyss. It was just that only the bloodlines that made up the most of the bloodlines would appear. As for the thinner bloodlines, they were hidden and almost impossible to awaken. In the body of the weakest demon rat, there might even be the strongest bloodline of an Abyss demon dragon. Of course, this was only an analogy, because no matter how lustful an Abyss demon dragon was, it would be extremely difficult for them to interact with an Abyss demon rat. And what the Abyss Walkers possessed was the ability to refine potions that could awaken the hidden bloodline of the Abyss demon race through their powerful demon refiner skills. This ability, in the eyes of any Abyss race, was absolutely heaven-defying. It was a power that only the will of the Abyss could control. Thus, they were called Abyss Walkers. This meant that they could descend a portion of the Abyss's power. After arranging for Big Mountain to settle down in the giant Deer City branch, Old Fox's eyes flashed. He said in a low voice, "Immediately find the source of these pills. This matter must be kept secret. No one can discover it." After a brief pause, he said, "Also, investigate the black demon bulls in Yodachui. Perhaps there's a key point in his bloodline transformation that you and I don't know about." The Fox girl's eyes widened. "Steward, you mean to say that the reason their bloodline transformation is because it is only a possibility? Hurry up and investigate. Remember, you must be careful. If you discover anything, immediately report it to me. Do not act rashly." Old Fox took a deep breath. but his heart was still fiercely beating in his chest. A demon refiner that could refine pills that could awaken the bloodline of the Abyss demon race was qualified to be called an Abyss Walker. But an Abyss Walker couldn't succeed every time. Or, it was more accurate to say that if they wanted to help an Abyss demon race awaken their bloodline, they needed a massive amount of time to prepare and countless precious items. And in Giant Deer City, in a short period of time, 2 powerful bloodlines had been awakened. If this was really done by the same person, then the title of number 1 in the Abyss was well-deserved. Chapter 1045. The Jilu City incident likely involved an Abyss Walker. Even if one ignored everything else, just the value of this information was enough for Old Fox to unhesitatingly activate all of the Thousand Eye Temple's hidden forces in the city. Of course, there was no time to ask headquarters, so he could only act first and report later. But even if he didn't obtain anything in the end, there was a good reason for this, and at most he would be punished. If he could really find this Abyss Walker, it would likely represent an unimaginable lucky chance. How to choose was self-evident to Old Fox, who had been through a lot of battles for a long time and was a wise old ghost. Ever since the Thousand Eye Temple had entered Jilu City, no one knew just how many spies they had placed in the city. Now that they were all activated, an astonishing amount of energy erupted. 2 hours later, under the premise of not alerting the other influences in Jilu City, 2 magic crystal cards were placed in front of Old Fox. One of the magic crystal cards recorded information about the self-proclaimed number 1 Abyss Demon Refiner. Obtaining it was easier than expected. This was because when this potion had been traded, there had been a transaction voucher left behind. Moreover, the rabbit girl who handled this matter still had an impression of the seller. The fox girl's complexion paled. Although her voice was calm, it gave off a faint feeling. We've already investigated. The one who sold this potion was Lu Hua. Old Fox sighed. He rubbed his temples, a bitter taste in his mouth. He had been cautious his entire life and had never made any major mistakes. This was how he had obtained his current status as a steward of a branch of the Thousand Eye Temple. As he grew old, he had actually made such a grave mistake. Although he didn't know whether or not this potion had been refined by Lu Hua, according to the fox girl, he had purchased the corresponding materials. Then, this batch of potion was definitely related to him. There were 2 possibilities. Either Lu Hua was a person who had hidden himself from everyone, including the Thousand Eye Temple, or there was an extremely powerful Abyss Walker standing behind him. But no matter which possibility it was, Lu Hua was worth it. The Thousand Eye Temple had tried to win him over with the greatest sincerity. And the mistake he had made was that he had missed the best chance to establish a relationship with Lu Hua. In fact, because of their previous contact, there had even been a slight barrier between the two. If Lu Hua was really just Lu Hua, then a barrier was a barrier. Even if it was several times stronger, as a steward of the Thousand Eye Temple, there was no need for him to care. But the key point was that Lu Hua was not just Lu Hua. This was very uncomfortable. If he wanted to salvage the situation and reverse the impression he had of them in Flowing Fire's heart, he would have to expend a great deal of effort. But everything could only be concluded after trying. No matter what, just these discoveries were enough for the Thousand Eye Palace to rope in the Lu Hua at all costs. Old Fox's gaze fell on the other magic crystal card. It contained information about the Black Demon Bull race's Neo Dachui. There was a lot of information, but he hadn't found anything useful. Vaguely, Old Fox felt that something very crucial was missing. If it was possible to connect Big Mountain with Neo Dachui, then Lu Hua's influence would be even more important than it was now. Elder Fox had to clearly judge Lu Hua's true value before he could show the corresponding attitude and sincerity. Therefore, he was waiting for the final news. My name is Big Hammer Nyo, and I'm still Big Copper Hammer, Big Iron Hammer, and Big Steel Hammer. That's right, I'm on camera again, but this time my image isn't too glorious. This is because I'm tied up and blindfolded. I don't know what I've been fed, but my entire body is limp and I can't use any strength. My black demon bull race's bloodline tells me that the situation is very bad. If I don't cooperate, I'll most likely be finished. It wasn't easy for me to awaken the black demon bull race's bloodline that has been passed down from my ancestors. I didn't even get to marry the 8 beautiful ladies, but they died just like that. It's really hard to accept. Furthermore, my dead father might even push open his coffin and jump out to grab me and beat me up. Speaking of my father, other than what he told me previously, there was one more thing he said. It's necessary for a man to be unyielding, but when it's time to be a coward, you must be quick. I feel that it's time to be a coward now. Therefore, after I woke up from my coma and made this judgment, I immediately shouted at the top of my lungs, "You can know anything you want, but please don't hurt me." After that, I said nothing. My name is Big Hammer, and I've already said it many times. I can tell you anything you want to know, but really, please don't hurt me. After the fox girl left for a short while, she returned with another magic crystal card. Old Fox said in a low voice, he said everything. Yes, we asked him many times, and there were no obvious mistakes. He shouldn't be lying. Old Fox took the magic crystal card and flipped through it for a long time before slowly closing his eyes. I remember that you once ordered people to secretly investigate Lu Hua's information. You should know where he lives. The fox girl's body trembled. Yes, Lu Hua's residence in the city is at Lanshan Avenue. Big Hammer Nyo said that before he fainted, he was also at Lanshan Avenue, right? That's right. Old Fox quickly panted a few times, a tinge of red appearing on his face. He used his hand to knock on the armrest of the chair and suddenly said, "I need you to investigate what happened after Lu Hua left the Thousand Eye Palace Hall for the second time." A hoarse voice came from a shadow under his feet. "Yes, Lord Manager." The shadow wriggled and rolled like boiling water. After a few breaths, it calmed down. The room fell deathly silent. As the fox girl thought of a possibility, she felt her breath quicken, and she even felt dizzy and suffocated. Lu Hua. Although there was no conclusive evidence, it seemed that all of these matters were inextricably linked to him. Could it really be him? Her mind was in a trance. After an unknown period of time, the fox girl was suddenly awakened by a hoarse voice from within the room. Reporting to Lord Manager, after Chinyu left that day, he was chased into Merry Forest. Afterwards, he left alone to hunt down the demons and disappeared. Old Fox sucked in a deep breath. What is the specific situation? I have yet to find out. But after that day, a great number of people disappeared from Merry Forest. That person's subordinates, Blackhedge and Firefly Wind, also vanished without a trace. It seems that some great event occurred that day. After a brief pause, the hoarse voice continued. I have activated the spies hidden in Merry Forest. That person seems to have personally acted on that day. Shua, Old Fox fiercely stood up. He closed his eyes and connected all of this information together in his mind. His body began to shiver. That's right. Lu Hua, what a good Lu Hua. Did he obtain an inheritance, or did he have some other lucky chance? If it weren't for the eruption of the beast tide and him entering Giant Deer City, perhaps no one would have discovered the secret hidden on his body. Abyssal Walk. Who would have thought that such an astonishing identity was hidden beneath the surface? That's right. Through the information he had obtained so far, Old Fox was able to determine that there was no figure behind Lu Hua that supported the heavens. This was because he himself was that incomparably powerful first abyssal. But why? As an abyssal walk, even if he faced the tyrannical and cruel demon dragon race, he would still receive the highest level of courtesy. As long as he revealed his identity, he could rampage through the abyss as if it were flat land without fear. But ever since he met Lu Hua, his actions and actions clearly didn't match up. And what was even more inconceivable was that he had actually helped Neo Dachui and Mountain, 2 low-level abyssal demons, stimulate their bloodline. It had to be known that even for the powerful and noble abyssal walks, if they wanted to refine a potion that could stimulate their bloodline, they would need to use up countless precious treasures. Ordinary members of the royal family didn't have enough wealth to invite them to help. There was a problem. There was definitely a problem here. Old Fox racked his brains. He believed that only by understanding this point could he truly establish a relationship with this strange abyssal walk. The fox girl glanced at the gloomy and uncertain old fox. She hesitated for a moment, and then said in a soft voice, "Uncle, perhaps Sir Lu Hua is currently changing his identity to live and accumulating different experiences in order to increase his strength." Old Fox's hand shook, and he pulled out a few strands of his beard. His face twitched in pain, but he didn't care about that right now. His eyes brightened. Changing his identity to live, accumulating experiences to increase one's own strength was simply childish. But this wasn't an impossible matter. If there was a ranking list of the number of years one had lived in the abyss, then the majority of the spots would be occupied by demon refiners. They had all sorts of strange methods that could allow them to live for an incomparably long time, even to the point where they would decay along with the abyss. At the very least, Old Fox knew of an example. When a veteran demon refiner didn't have much time left in his life, he had paid an unknown price to complete a bloodline sharing with a demon dragon elder. Their lives were one, and as long as the demon elder didn't die, he could continue living. And the demon dragon race was the undisputed favored child of the abyss. Every adult demon dragon would automatically obtain the recognition of the abyss and become a powerful existence comparable to the Abyss King. Their lifespan was endless. It was said that even if they were killed, as long as their dragon's soul wasn't extinguished, they could be reborn from the abyss. This was an existence that stood at the top of the food chain, almost immortal and indestructible. It had to be known that the abyssal walks were the strongest batch of demon refiners. Their methods of prolonging their lifespan were naturally stronger. For example, if there really was an abyssal walk who was willing to share his bloodline with the demon dragon race, there would definitely be a large number of abyssal demon dragons fighting to the death. There was no helping it. This was the incomparably formidable strength of the abyssal walks. Even the demon dragon race had to lower their noble heads several times before. The reason why this was mentioned was because almost every abyssal walk, unless an accident occurred, would live for an incomparably long period of time. And this was where the problem appeared. All living beings in the world, besides a small number of reincarnated experts that had a lifespan equal to the heavens, most began to fear and struggle against death from the moment they were born. But as they bitterly struggled to live longer, there were also some people that had shaken their sense of self because they had lived for so long. To put it simply, they were tired of living. Their hearts were incomparably tired, empty, and they felt like they couldn't lift their spirits towards anything. The general symptoms were similar to those of severe depression. Even though they knew that death was a wrong choice, they would still slowly slide into the abyss of destruction. As the steward of the Thousand Eye Hall branch, Old Fox had lived for a very long time. Although he hadn't lived to the point where he didn't want to live any longer, he still knew many of these secrets. Thus, some existences with ancient lifespans would actively change when they sensed that their condition wasn't right. They would try their best to rekindle their interest in life and not fall into self-destruction. Changing their identity, or even changing their form, and banishing themselves into the abyss was one of the most effective methods. Was it possible that Lu Hua was in such a state? The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. Old Fox vaguely felt that he had grasped the crux of the matter. This crux was whether or not the Thousand Eye Hall could establish a truly stable relationship with him. Since Lu Hua wanted to experience a new life so that he wouldn't be tired of living, then reminding him of his identity was clearly a mistake. That's right, that was it. If he wanted to be on good terms with him, he had to pretend to be ignorant and not reveal the truth. Otherwise, if they were to disrupt Lu Hua's experience of life, the Jilu City branch, including all of them, would be smashed into smithereens, not to mention forming a good relationship. Old Fox rejoiced in his heart. Luckily, he had noticed this. Otherwise, if he had hurriedly rushed over to express his fear after discovering Lu Hua's identity, he would already be dead. He looked at the fox girl and nodded slightly to express his appreciation. What you said is very reasonable. Remember, unless His Excellency Lu Hua takes the initiative to reveal his identity, Otherwise, our Thousand-Eye Palace Hall will have to be mute and not know anything. Do you understand this logic? The fox girl hurriedly bowed. Don't worry, uncle. Your niece will remember this. She looked at Old Fox, her mouth moving as if she wanted to say something. Of course, I understand your intentions. It's a pity that you have already missed the best opportunity. If you had thought of a way to climb into Lord Lu Hua's bed, not only for you, but for my Tushan Fox clan, it would have been a great opportunity. Old Fox took a deep breath. All right, we will think of a way to resolve this matter in the future. The most important thing now is to re-establish contact with Lu Hua. For example, let it become the most important guest of our Thousand-Eye Hall branch in Jilu City. The fox girl's eyes widened. Uncle, you want to hide Lu Hua's existence, How are you going to explain this to headquarters? Humph. Even if some people are dissatisfied, they will have to wait until the beast tide ends before they have a chance to make things difficult for me. A sharp light flashed in Old Fox's eyes. Moreover, I won't always hide Lu Hua's identity. I just want to seize an early opportunity. At the very least, I want to become an indispensable intermediary between Lu Hua and Thousand-Eye Hall. After discovering that Lu Hua was likely to be a powerful abyssal walker who had hidden his identity and exiled himself to the abyss, Old Fox's thoughts raced, and he came up with this idea. Once this was smoothly accomplished, his status in Thousand-Eye Hall would rise, and he would become an important member. It wouldn't be difficult for him to obtain the position of Vice Hall Master. The fox girl quickly thought this through. Old Fox was her blood relative. The higher his status was, the more she would benefit. She respectfully bowed. Uncle is truly thoughtful. Old Fox took a deep breath. Since Lu Hua doesn't want to be disturbed, then we must carefully plan our next actions. All right, let's hurry and find Lu Hua. Our Thousand-Eye Hall is about to hold an internal discount banquet to thank our esteemed guest. We must invite him to attend. The fox girl respectfully bowed. I will immediately do so. Qin, you certainly didn't know that in order to find a reasonable opportunity to contact him, some people had already used their ultimate move, not hesitating to lose a massive amount of demon crystals. Otherwise, he wouldn't have felt such a headache over the few demon crystals he had on hand. Liao Shi's potions were smoothly sold off once more. This left Qin Yu speechless at the abyssal demon race's so-called inspection methods. He thought to himself, with this level of skill, how did they manage to do business until today? He couldn't figure it out. He couldn't figure it out at all. But if he couldn't figure it out, then he wouldn't bother thinking about it. In any case, he wasn't the one eating the potions, so any trouble that arose after they were sold off had nothing to do with him. What Qin Yu had a headache about now was how to use the demon crystals he obtained from selling the potions to buy the things that Liao Shi needed. As the beast horde attacks on Jilu City grew fiercer, the prices of all kinds of potions in the city skyrocketed. Although they were all ordinary healing potions, because of the scarcity of the market, the selling price was much higher than the Thousand-Eye Temples. But what was helpless was that Liao Shi said she was no longer suitable to refine such low-level potions. As the future strongest demon refiner in the abyss, her future path was the Sea of Stars. To sum it up, she wanted Qin Yu to buy higher quality materials to refine stronger potions. As the price of potions soared, the prices of all sorts of refining materials also soared, much less the high-quality materials that she wanted. When Qin Yu asked about the price, his complexion darkened. With the amount of demon crystals he had on hand, it was impossible to gather the required amount, and the gap wasn't small at all. As he stood outside the store filled with people, Qin Yu rubbed his chin, considering the possibility of forcefully buying and selling. Behind a window on the second floor of the store, an abyssal demon inadvertently glanced over. As the abyssal demon saw his appearance, his body shivered and his face paled. Chapter 1046. Mary Forest had a notorious reputation. Other than the demons who had nowhere else to go, or those who were already evil to begin with, no one would be willing to live here. This also led to the fact that there were many soldiers in Mary Forest, but most of them did not produce anything. To put it simply, most of them were poor. If they purely relied on these poor people in the controlled area to obtain magic crystals and resources, Mary Forest would have long collapsed, not to mention distributing resources to their subordinates and leading the troops. Therefore, outside of the Mary Forest area, they actually had many businesses. If they calculated carefully, it was definitely a huge source of income. Flying Pigeon was a hybrid of the Black Crow and Demon Dove race. His bloodline was not strong, and his strength was only average. However, he had inherited the cunning of the Black Crow race and the calm wisdom of the Demon Dove race. Coupled with his diligence, he was finally valued by Black Edge and appointed to manage 7 to 8 shops of various sizes in Julu City. Recently, because of the Beast Horde outbreak, the prices of resources in the city had skyrocketed. Flying Pigeon had to patrol every day to adjust the prices in time to ensure the greatest profits. After carefully calculating the profits of this shop, even though he was already mentally prepared, the profit figures still made his heart beat faster. His grin almost reached the back of his ears. Regardless of the reason, the high profits were his credit. Lord Black Edge was fair, so naturally, he would not be lacking in rewards. Once he was happy, he felt his heart burning. In addition, not long ago, he had hooked up with the female owner of this shop, a woman from the Black Swan race with a charming voice. As for how Flying Pigeon knew that this woman's voice was charming, that was another rather intense and erotic story that would not be elaborated here. In short, Flying Pigeon's interest was piqued. He called the female owner over, scanned the room, and had her lie by the window with her back facing him. It took a long time to describe, but just as Flying Pigeon was about to raise his spear and fight, his gaze suddenly passed through the half-closed curtains and saw a person standing at the entrance of the shop. His whole body shivered, and the Vudra silver spear turned into a slug in the blink of an eye. He only felt a chill in his crotch, and his whole body turned numb. Although he had only caught a glimpse of her from afar that day, Fei Ge had a deep impression of this face. He would never forget it. Miss Sing Feng, who was known for her beauty and viciousness, was someone who would cause people's expressions to change at the mere mention of her name in Mary Forest. To think that she would end up in such a sorry state. She had completely lost her image and was lying on the ground eating dirt, crying and laughing one moment, and completely oblivious to everything that had happened. Lord Black Edge, whom he had always viewed as his role model and idol, had a deathly pale face, not daring to move at all. This was the first time Fei Ying had seen Lord Black Edge in such a state of fear. Later, it was said that his lord had personally made a move to force that person to retreat. Otherwise, who knew what would have happened in the end? How could Fei Ge forget such a person? Instead, he was trying his best to remember it. In the future, he would definitely keep his eyes wide open. If he were to meet him, he would definitely not court death. He was cautious and thoughtful. Of course, that was a good quality. But Fei Ying had never thought that she would actually meet him. And now, he was standing outside the shop he managed with a pensive expression and uncertain eyes. What was he going to do? Just as his mind was trembling, the Qin Yu in Fei Ying's eyes suddenly looked up. Their gazes met in midair. Fei Ying staggered and almost fell to the ground. Then his ears buzzed and his vision turned black. It's over, it's over. He found me. What should I do? Fei Ying usually thought that his brain was smart and intelligent. But now it was as if his entire body had fallen into an ice cave and he was sinking. Brother Fei, what's wrong? The Black Swan witch, who had been waiting for a long time, turned her head in fright. She hurriedly put down her skirt and grabbed him, shaking him. Ah, I'm fine. Fei Ying snapped out of his daze and suddenly jumped 3 feet high. He turned his head and rushed out anxiously. Squeezing through the crowd, Fei Ying rushed out of the shop under the shocked gazes of a large number of demons. He stopped far away and bowed respectfully to Qin Yu. Panting, he said, I didn't know you were coming. Please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. Fei Ji's heart was thumping. She felt like she was dancing on the tip of a knife at this moment. There were tens of thousands of shops in the huge Julu city. There was only one shop that belonged to Mary Forest on this entire street. Did you think it was a coincidence that Xinyu happened to appear here? Feng did not dare to guess the other party's purpose today, but he felt that if he still dared to act ignorant now that he had seen the other party, his life would be over. No matter what, he quickly lowered his head and called him boss. This was a person who could even toy with missing Feng, a person who terrified Lord Blackedge. Other than his lord, who would dare to disrespect him? Xinyu frowned slightly. He really did not have any impression of the person in front of him. Fei Ying was observant. How could he not know that a small character like him would not be remembered by the boss? He quickly said, "A few days ago, my lord entered Merry Forest. I followed Lord Blackedge to work and saw my lord from afar." Xinyu glanced at Fei Ying's pale face. His thoughts turned, and he guessed what he was thinking. Someone from Merry Forest? This was a coincidence. If his luck was good, he might be able to avoid a lot of trouble in the future. Coughing lightly, Xinyu said, "I came today to buy some materials." He took out a magic crystal card. "The list is here. Take a look and see if it's here." Feng took it with both hands and probed it with his divine sense. His body couldn't help but tremble. He was even more certain of his thoughts. This person was really here to cause trouble. The only good news was that it seemed he had left some leeway. As long as he gave them the materials, it would be fine. He didn't directly attack them. Fei Ying's face was pale, and sweat dripped down his forehead like rain. He lifted a hand to wipe it and said in a trembling voice, "Everything is here. My lord, please enter and wait a moment. I will prepare it for you as soon as possible." Qin Yu's eyes brightened. The magic crystal card he took out was the big list that Liao Shi had carefully prepared after a long time of nagging. There were so many items marked on it that just looking at it made one dizzy. Compared to the items on the small list that he wanted to buy on this trip, it was at least 70,000 to 80,000 miles away. Even this was here? Haha, it seemed that he had underestimated the financial resources of Merry Forest. When it came to extortion, no matter how big or small, one would offend someone. Since he had offended someone, he might as well offend them to the end. Once he did this, he would have all the materials that Liao Shi needed for a long time in the future. This was an incomparably important point. Qin Yu didn't want to be constantly tormented by her on this trip. As for being hated, Lu Hua had long since died. Once he changed his identity, he could find whoever he wanted. He nodded and followed behind Fei Ying. Qin Yu strode into the shop. Then, under the awestruck gazes of the crowd, he was brought to a quiet room where he enjoyed the service of two trembling rabbit girls. The true leader of the shop came from Merry Forest. This was no secret to them, and because of this, very few people dared to bully them. For this reason, the two rabbit girls were immensely pleased with themselves. They rejoiced that they were able to rely on the great tree that was Merry Forest. But today they had truly experienced what it meant to say that there is always a higher mountain. The normally mighty Brother Fei was like a coward today. He bowed so low that it seemed as if he would break at any moment. For Brother Fei, who came from Merry Forest and was said to have some status, to have such a humble attitude, just what sort of status did the person in front of them have? Just thinking about it left them breathless. Qin Yu drank his tea and ate some unknown pastries. Perhaps it was because his current state was that of a demon from the abyss, but he actually felt that the taste was pretty good. As for Fei Ying, who had used the excuse of preparing some items to leave, Qin Yu knew that he must be busy contacting Merry Forest, so he didn't stop him. The items that Liao Shi had listed on the big list were obviously of great value. In addition to the astonishing quantity, it was definitely not something that a small shop like this could gather. If he wanted to obtain it, he would need the approval of the demon commander of Merry Forest. Naturally, he would have to send a message. As for whether the demon commander would agree, Qin Yu felt that there was a 50% chance of this. Although he was extorting them, Merry Forest was at a disadvantage first. And before this, he had released Feng and Blackedge. No matter what, the demon commander would have to give him some face. Moreover, if the two really fought, it was hard to say who would win. After thinking about it a few times, Qin Yu felt that the possibility of Merry Forest falling out with him was not high. At most, they would give him some discounts. But that was fine. Even if they gave him 10% of the items on the big list, it would still be a great profit. In fact, Qin Yu's guess was right. After Fei Ying left the quiet room, he didn't even dare to wipe the sweat off his face as he hurriedly contacted Lord Blackedge. And then there was nothing. After the message was sent, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no response at all. What was going on? Was he going to give him the items or fall out? At least give him a response. Or could it be that this shop, including him, had been abandoned? If that was the case, Fei Ying felt that no matter what, he wouldn't be able to live past today. Of course, no response was impossible. After receiving Fei Ying's message, Blackedge, who had been calming down for a long time, jumped up. His face turned green and white. Lu Hua, it was that person. He had come looking for him. Damn it, every debt has a debtor. Even if he really wanted to cause trouble, he should be looking for Ing Feng's bad luck. Why would he look for him? But this question clearly had no answer. After circling a few times, Blackedge turned and left. He had no choice. Now that Lu Hua was involved, this matter was no longer something he had the right to deal with. He had to let his lord decide. Just as Blackedge was hurrying to the depths of Merry Forest to report, the Thousand Eye Palace finally locked on a Qin Yu's whereabouts. They discovered that Lu Hua was not at his residence. Instead, he had gone to a small, unknown shop. After further investigation, they discovered that this small shop actually had the backing of Merry Forest. This meant that they had to be a little more cautious. As the saying goes, a powerful dragon cannot suppress a snake in its own territory. Moreover, the one in Merry Forest, although not a flood dragon, was still a giant python that could overturn rivers and seas. This discovery made Old Fox rather hesitant. But the news that came immediately after made him pant heavily, because Qin Yu had gone to this shop and actually sold another bottle of healing potion. It was still of normal quality. Who the hell knew how they had appraised it to be normal quality? After this matter was over, the appraisal department must be completely changed. A bunch of idiots. Investigate, continue investigating. Old Fox took a few deep breaths and warned himself not to be rash. Selling the potion was nothing. He had plenty of ways to get his hands on this bottle of potion. If he acted rashly, he might accidentally let others notice Lu Hua. That would be really troublesome. Following that, there was a steady stream of news. Lu Hua was respectfully invited into the shop. He entered a quiet room, and no one was allowed to approach. There were strange movements in Merry Forest. After Blacklight requested to see that person, there were signs of large amounts of resources being moved. There was already concrete evidence that Merry Forest was preparing a large amount of precious materials. Their current purpose was unknown. Line by line, Old Fox's eyes were turning red. The last shred of hope in his heart had completely disappeared. Merry Forest, that old dog with an amazing sense of smell, had definitely sensed something. It seemed that they were not the only ones who had locked onto Lu Hua. He had originally thought that after grasping a secret that no one knew, he could play a good game of chess and obtain the greatest benefits. But in the blink of an eye, let alone playing chess, even the chessboard had almost been taken away. Damned old dog, you've gone too far. Lu Hua, will not let this matter rest. Let's go and pay a visit to Lu Hua. As a distinguished guest of the Thousand Eye Palace, no matter what materials you need, my Thousand Eye Palace will be able to provide it. He could not wait any longer. Otherwise, this first place would be snatched away by Merry Forest. At this moment, Old Fox's face was ashen, his eyes flashing with a terrifying light. Blacklight knelt on the ground, his back already soaked in cold sweat. Such a long period of silence was definitely proportional to the anger in his lord's heart. But he understood that his lord would not easily make a move. That day, he had not done anything and had allowed Lu Hua to leave safely. Just this point alone was enough to explain many things. Just as Blacklight felt that the air was becoming more and more viscous, and even breathing was becoming increasingly difficult, the cold voice of his lord finally sounded from above his head. Blacklight, go on my behalf and tell Lu Hua his conditions. Merry Forest has agreed, but you must let him remember that this is the first and last time. Otherwise, he will not want to see the consequences. His lord had endured, although he had already expected this. But when he heard the real order, Blacklight could not help but feel a sense of emptiness in his heart. Even his lord was so afraid of him. Indeed, Lu Hua was a demon commander, but no matter how he searched through his memories, he could not find any impression of this person. Could it be that he had descended from another abyss? A demon commander was the strongest person below the king of the abyss. He had already stood at the peak that countless abyss demons did not dare to imagine. Such a person could release endless power with just a wave of his hand. No matter which king of the abyss they relied on, they would obtain a large piece of land and become the ruler of a territory, controlling the life and death of millions of abyss demons. But such a person, an absolute important person in the abyss, had actually done such a vile thing as coming to extort money. It was a complete disgrace. If he had not experienced it himself, Blacklight would not have imagined it. Yes, his lord. Taking a deep breath, he bowed respectfully and stood up from the ground. Glancing at the tall figure of his lord behind the black curtain, Blacklight sighed in his heart. Although he also felt that his lord's decision was the wisest, today's matter involved many precious materials, so it was impossible to keep it a secret. If news of this were spread, Mary Forrest would become the target of ridicule. Chapter 1047. Fei Gu, who was in despair, finally received a reply from Mary Forrest. He let out a long sigh and regained his composure. Only then did he realize that he was drenched in cold sweat, as if he had just been fished out of the water. It was good that he had agreed. It was good that he had agreed. If his lord had a falling out with Lu Hua, no one knew what the final outcome would be, but he would definitely be torn to shreds at the first moment. After hurriedly tidying up and changing his clothes, Fei Gun knocked on the door of the quiet room. When there was a sound from inside, he respectfully pushed the door open and entered. "My lord, the things you want are currently being prepared. Lord Blackedge will personally come here to deliver them to you." To be honest, this result was indeed somewhat out of Qin Yu's expectations. He had played a game of extortion and had completely opened his mouth. He had never thought that he would be able to obtain everything. In his heart, Qin Yu had left room for Mary Forrest to bargain. To be able to give 30 to 40% in the end was already very good to him. But now, they had given everything without any discount. Was it because Mary Forrest had a deep background and did not care about this? Or was there some other reason? No matter how he looked at it, the latter was more likely. But no matter what, this was an unexpected surprise. A smile appeared on Qin Yu's face. Seeing his smiling face, Fei Ge's heart finally settled back into his stomach. If nothing went wrong, he had passed this hurdle. Only now did he have the mood to think about the things listed in the magic crystal card. His heart twitched a few times. After being extorted like this, all the profits that Mary Forrest had generated during the beast tide would probably have to be used up, and it might not even be enough. Blackedge finally arrived and chased everyone out. Only he and Qin Yu were left in the quiet room. With a solemn expression, he placed a magic leather bag on the table. "Lord Lu Hua, Mary Forrest has agreed to all of your requests. All the materials are inside. Please accept it." Qin Yu glanced at the magic leather bag. "No need. I believe in your sincerity." Blackedge's mouth twitched. He thought to himself, "I really don't want to trust." But such thoughts were just thoughts. He did not dare to express them. Instead, he had to express his gratitude to Qin Yu for his trust. Taking a deep breath, Blackedge continued. "In addition, my lord has a message for me to pass to Lord Lu Hua. I hope this matter." Just then, the door to the quiet room was suddenly pushed open. Blackedge's voice stopped abruptly. But when he saw the person who had barged in, his expression changed again. He subconsciously stood up and said, "Old Fox, why are you here?" The steward of the Thousand Eye Temple, the true leader of the Giant Deer City branch, was naturally one of the most powerful people in this territory. Moreover, Blackedge vaguely knew that the Lord and this old fox seemed to have known each other for a long time. Their relationship was not good, but they were not true opponents. Instead, there was a subtle tacit understanding in some matters. Of course, he did not dare to be careless in front of Elder Fox, and his tone was filled with respect. Unexpectedly, when faced with Blacklight's question, Elder Fox only glanced at him and completely ignored him. He strode over with a smile on his face. "Mr. Luhua, we were previously busy with work and neglected you. This is all the fault of the Thousand Eye Palace Hall. Please do not take it to heart and give us another chance to prove ourselves." As he spoke, his gaze swept across the magic leather bag on the table. His smile grew. "To show our sincerity, no matter what Mr. Luhua needs, the Thousand Eye Temple is willing to sell it at the lowest price and guarantee the best quality. I believe that no one in Giant Deer City can compare to the Thousand Eye Temple." What was going on? Blacklight was dumbfounded, his heart sluggish. Now that he had brought the item, he hadn't even passed on his master's message. He couldn't allow the people from the Thousand Eye Hall to ruin his plans. He squeezed out a smile. "Elder Hu, is there a misunderstanding? Our merry forest and Lord Lu Hua have a special relationship, so the items in the magic leather bag will be given to you for free to show our sincerity. We have no intention of competing with the Thousand Eye Temple for business." Free gift? The corners of Elder Hu's mouth twitched. He cursed inwardly. "You damn dog, to think you would even do such a thing." As expected, this old thing had definitely grasped the truth. Otherwise, he would not have put in so much effort. Although he did not know how many items were in the magic leather bag, from the information that Elder Hu had, it was definitely a massive amount of demon crystals. "Why do you give it to others just like that? In all these years, why have I not seen you give it to others?" He coldly glared at Black Edge. "Little brat, you still dare to talk about competing for business? Yes, you do not compete with us for business. What you want is my good fortune and future. Old Hu, will not let this matter rest. Mr. Lu Hua, Merry Forest has a terrible reputation. It is a vicious place that no one dares to approach. If you cooperate with them, it will affect your reputation. The Thousand Eye Temple is willing to pay double the price of the items in Merry Forest in exchange for your understanding and friendship to continue working with us." Elder Hu glanced behind him. "What are you waiting for? Show us our sincerity, and then invite Mr. Lu Hua to leave." The fox girl respectfully bowed, holding the magic leather bag with both hands. "Sir, I was negligent before. I am willing to accept any punishment you give me. Please give me a chance to make up for it. Otherwise, the manager will definitely pursue this matter, and I fear that I will not be able to live." There were tears in her eyes, and her voice choked with emotion. Such a delicate beauty begging for forgiveness in such a soft and gentle manner was indeed very touching. But who could tell Black Edge what the F***CK was going on in front of them? Why was it so difficult for the Merry Forest to draw a line between us and Lu Hua and have nothing to do with us in the future? What did you people from the Thousand Eye Temple want to do? His lord had already made the greatest concession by patiently handing over the treasures. If he could not even handle such a small matter, his lord would definitely be disappointed in him. Clenching his teeth, Black Edge's voice deepened. "Elder Hu, this is my Merry Forest territory. I hope that you can leave for a while. After Lord Lu Hua leaves, we will not interfere with how you interact with him." "Humph," Elder Hu sneered. "Little brat, your wings have hardened after a few years. You dare to speak to me like this?" Black Edge's face flushed red. "You were the one who was rude and unreasonable first. I was rude and unreasonable. What do you want? Hurry up and scram. You have no right to challenge me." Elder Hu waved his hand, his eyes filled with disdain. At this moment, a calm voice sounded in everyone's ears. "Old Fox, you dare to cause trouble in my territory. You're quite bold." Black Edge's eyes brightened. He hurriedly bowed. "Greetings to my lord. Rise." The black-clothed, middle-aged demon had a calm expression. His appearance was exactly the same as a human's. If this was not the Abyss, it would be impossible to recognize his identity. In other words, this person was a member of the Abyss royal family. It was just that it was unknown which race he came from. He stepped forward and cupped his hands. "Mr. Lu Hua, Today is the second time we have met. I hope that you can fulfill your agreement with my merry forest." Elder Hu's face twisted. He blurted out, "Don't even think about it." He viciously glared at He Tiangang. "Hey Tiangang, I warn you, do not forget that I am still holding on to your little tail. If you really provoke me, I will make sure you suffer the consequences." The true master of Merry Forest, the calm black-robed He Tiangang, only glanced at him. "If I am unlucky, you won't have an easy time either." Elder Hu's entire body shivered. But at this moment, a large part of his appearance was a deliberate act. It could be considered a method to numb his opponent. Elder Hu was truly enraged. But in truth, his thoughts were still clear and his mind was rapidly spinning. Today, he had suddenly come here. Even though he had covered his tracks, he still couldn't completely conceal himself from the eyes of those outside. Not to mention that this old dog had also arrived. In this world, there was never a lack of intelligent people. Elder Hu did not believe that the clues he could find could not be found by others. If this matter attracted too much attention and extended to Sir Luhua, then there was a high possibility that his secrets would be exposed. Not to mention, if this really happened, would it anger Sir Luhua and cause all of them to suffer his wrath? At the very least, all his plans would be for naught. He would even have to suffer severe punishment from the headquarters of the Thousand Eye Palace. After all, no one was a fool. Through his current actions, coupled with his previous concealment, they could easily guess his plans. Originally, this was a great situation where they could obtain countless benefits. But because of the appearance of the Merry Forest, this shit-stirrer, they had completely lost control and began to slide into an unknown abyss. That damned old black dog, he is indeed my nemesis. Nothing good will come out of meeting him. He could not continue like this. He had to think of a way to get things back on track as soon as possible. Perhaps he could only cooperate. Taking a deep breath, Elder Hu suppressed his anger. He smiled. "Sir Luhua, He Tiangang and I have some matters to deal with first. Please wait here for a moment. Don't worry, we will be quick and won't take up too much time." He Tiangang smiled. "That's right. There are some matters that I have to trouble you with." Qin Yu, this was really waking up in a daze and falling asleep in a daze. Who could tell him just what had happened? Why would the people of the Thousand Eye Palace appear here? And even if they had appeared, they should not have such an attitude. The demon commander of the Merry Forest was behaving very strangely. It was as if he did not know anything, but at the same time, he seemed to know everything. But from what he could see, although the development of the matter was strange, it did not seem to be a bad thing for him. Fighting to give things to others, was it because he did not have a deep understanding of the abyss? Or perhaps he had a misunderstanding that they were actually a race that loved and cared for others? His mind was in a mess. Qin Yu's silence in Elder Hu's eyes was a tacit agreement. He turned and left with a snort. He Tiangang cupped his hands together and followed behind. The two old demons left just like that. The fox girl was half kneeling on the ground with tears in her eyes. Her hands were still holding the magic skin bag, and her white chest was exposed, looking pitiful. Black Edge clenched his teeth. He grabbed the magic skin bag that the Merry Forest had prepared and knelt on the other side. "Lord Luhua, although I do not know what has happened, if you accept it, please take our things." The fox girl was acting pitiful and could not immediately react. But in her heart, she wished that she could bite this damned horned python to death. "I am using my great charm technique to attract Lord Lu Hua's attention, and you jump out to attract his attention? You are such an eyesore. Why don't you hurry up and die?" Black Edge glanced over and sneered in his heart. "You coquettish fox, don't even think about flirting in front of Lord Lu Hua." Without mentioning the fox girl and Black Edge's secret confrontation in the quiet room, Elder Hu and He Tiangang did not go far. They turned into another quiet room. Closing the door, the anger and frustration on Elder Hu's face instantly disappeared. He frowned and said slowly, "Old black dog, what are you trying to do?" He Tiangang's expression was calm. "Smelly fox, you and I both know what is going on. Why waste your breath? You must know, if that person waits for too long, who knows what will happen." The corner of his eyes twitched. Elder Who took a deep breath. Let's cooperate. We can cooperate, but we need to discuss the method first. Damn it, at this time, how can we delay? Both of us are here. If we are discovered by others, we will split up, and no one will get any benefits. Hey, Tiangong's eyes flashed. Are you sure that only the two of us know about this? At least for now, but my actions will be discovered sooner or later. Elder Hu's voice stopped. He suddenly widened his eyes and stared at Hey Tiangang. You don't know. His face was flushed red, and even his eyes were dyed red. He breathed heavily, as if he would pounce at any moment. Hey Tiangang took a deep breath. He slowly said, Before this, I indeed didn't know anything. But your words have reminded me. The birth of the Black Demon Bull and the Silver Moon royal bloodline. Was it because of Sir Luhua? As he spoke, even with his calm and steady mind, his voice became hoarse. It was clear that his emotions had reached an extreme. Bang! The soft sofa beneath Elder Hu instantly shattered into countless pieces. The soft material that filled it was also torn to pieces by the violent energy. Damn it! Damn it! You damn dog! I will kill you! I will definitely kill you! Old Fox, who thought of himself as a wise person, could not accept that he was the one who revealed the most crucial information. The actions of the Thousand Eye Temple could be concealed from others, but Mary Forest was deeply rooted in Jilu City. They were a true local snake, and no one could compare to the number of people they had planted. Therefore, based on the slight flaw in Elder Hu's words, He Tiangang immediately grasped the truth of the matter. After a series of crackling noises, the violent tremors caused the demons outside the quiet room to draw their swords at each other's throats. Elder Hu, Master, the demons from both sides had just pushed the door open when they were frightened by the roars that came from the quiet room. All of you get out. Fortunately, although the two elders were panting, they were still full of energy. It seemed like there was no major problem. However, what on earth had happened for the two big shots to fight in the quiet room? TSK, I don't dare to think about it. I'll just wait outside. If I really hear something I shouldn't hear, I'll just be looking for trouble. At this moment, the quiet room was a complete mess. Everything within sight had been violently destroyed. Elder Fox and He Tiangang sat on a tattered sofa, separated by a table that had been smashed into pieces, and panted heavily. Damn dog, consider yourself lucky. But you have to tell me, just what happened today? After confirming Qin Yu's identity, Erebus Gang's heart began to beat wildly in his chest. He was excited to the extreme. Hearing this, he grimaced and sucked in a breath of pain. His smile became even brighter. If I tell you, you'll definitely be even more depressed. As expected, when Elder Hu learned of what had happened between Qin Yu and Mary Forest, his intestines turned green with regret. It was all his fault for not being able to keep his composure. If he waited a little longer and Qin Yu left the shop, he would still be able to enjoy this secret alone. But now that things had reached this point, no matter how angry or unwilling he was, it was all meaningless. Elder Hu could only comfort himself. At least he had verified Qin Yu's identity from another aspect. Demon Commander. Who would have thought that such a terrifying strength was hidden beneath that ordinary aura? There was no mistake. Sir Flowing Fire was an Abyss Walker who had changed his identity and exiled himself into the Abyss to experience a brand new life. After a moment, the cleaned-up Elder Hu and He Tiangang walked out of the quiet room one after another, their expressions restored to their former selves. An hour later, Qin Yu floated back to his residence with 2 demon skin bags in his arms. Looking at the familiar door in front of him, he rubbed his temples, feeling as if he were still in a dream. There were far too many strange things happening today. Had the Abyss become abnormal? Chapter 1048. Mary Forest and Thousand Eye Temple had a dispute because of a batch of precious materials. It was said that the matter was extremely serious. The steward of Thousand Eye Temple, Old Fox, and the master of Mary Forest had both interfered in this matter. A battle had erupted on the spot, and both sides had parted on bad terms. Afterwards, the Thousand Eye Temple declared that they would make the merry forest pay a heavy price for this matter. The latter did not back down. They declared that merry forest did not fear any provocation and that if they were invaded by the outside world, they would return it 10 times over. This matter involved two giant influences in Jilu City. For a time, it caused an uproar and attracted countless eyes. Of course, not everyone believed this, but after some investigation, it seemed to be true and no flaws were found. Thus, because of Old Fox and Kuroda Takashi's exposure, Chinyu's existence was greatly diluted and he became a nobody. This was the joint effort of Thousand Eye Temple and Merry Forest. To completely erase all traces of Chinyu without anyone noticing was an incomparably difficult matter. Chinyu did not know what had happened. Of course, even if he knew, he would only praise the two for their meticulous arrangements. Because of Liao Shi's existence, he did not want to attract any more attention. It was good to be a little invisible. But in reality, Chinyu knew that after this matter, it was impossible for him to maintain his previous tranquility. But there was one thing he couldn't figure out. Had the demons of Thousand Eye Hall and Merry Forest really gone mad? They actually treated something like the vigorous Heaven Ascension pill as a treasure. In Chinyu's opinion, they were simply tired of living. But whether or not Chinyu understood, this was clearly the only explanation. The reason why these two groups of people had come to his door and acted so respectfully was because of the potions he had sold. Liao Shi reared his head back and laughed, mocking Chinyu's judgment. He said that with his low taste, he would not be able to feel how breathtaking the potions she refined were. In short, the two of them were not on the same channel. With your level and ability, you are destined to be an honest assistant to the future #1 demon refiner of the abyss. Chinyu snorted, thinking that he cared. But soon, an unexpected turn of events occurred. This was because Elder Fox and Erebus paid him a visit the next day. Although the words of these two old demons were filled with mystery and mystery, Chinyu slowly understood the meaning behind their words. They wanted to cooperate. Moreover, it seemed that they firmly believed that Chinyu was the one who refined those potions. Liao Shi's proud and arrogant face instantly froze. You could almost hear the sound of her heart breaking apart. Throughout the entire conversation, Liao Shi seemed to have become an ice-cold machine. His face was so dark that it seemed as if it would rain at any moment. Old Fox and Hei Tiangang, the two old devils who were very shrewd, couldn't help but look at her a few times. It seemed that they were very puzzled. What exactly was going on with her changing mood? However, seeing that Chinyu was turning a blind eye to them, the two old demons were smart enough not to show their displeasure. Instead, they raised the importance of Liao Shi by 2 levels in their hearts. This was obvious. When a master was meeting with a guest, even an ordinary maid dared to openly show her displeasure. Moreover, she wasn't reprimanded at all, so how could her status be ordinary? Of course, what was even more important was that teacher Liao was beautiful enough. That's right, she was beautiful. Perhaps it was because they had different standards of beauty, but in the eyes of these two old demons, she was a top beauty. Of course, when Old Fox and Hei Tiangang first saw Liao Shi, they were given a fright. They thought that the Abyssal Walker was truly invincible. He had actually taken a royal woman as a maid. Such a cruel matter was simply unheard of. But soon, they discovered that Liao Shi didn't have any powerful aura. It was clear that she wasn't a true royal. It was likely that because of Lu Hua, he had refined some kind of potion for her that could conceal the traces of her race. It wasn't that similar potions didn't exist in the abyss. Moreover, they were deeply loved by the women of high-level abyssal races and were incomparably expensive. This also confirmed their speculations about Liao Shi. If Lu Hua didn't hesitate to use such a potion on a maid, then how could that maid be a simple maid? Thank you for Mr. Lu Hua's recognition. I hope that we can have a pleasant cooperation in the future. Of course, in order to express the sincerity of our two sides, no matter what you need, you can tell us, and we will do our best to solve it for you. Old Fox smiled sincerely, his eyes surging with excitement. He had succeeded, and the entire process had been much smoother than he had imagined. If this were any other time, such an easy victory would have inevitably left old Fox bewildered. This was the caution of an old demon that had lived for a long time in the abyss and had a certain status. But in old Fox's view, today's matter involved an abyssal walker who had lived for an unknown number of years and had already begun to loathe life. He had no choice but to exile himself in an attempt to stimulate the passion of life once more. For this kind of extremely old and twisted existence that even wanted to kill him, no matter what he did, it was very normal. Hey Tiangang agreed. So after secretly leaving this small courtyard, these two high-ranking old demons looked at each other. They could feel the excitement in each other's hearts. To cooperate with an abyssal walker, even with their status, this was something that they would never have dared to imagine. But without a doubt, they had already succeeded. Next, as long as they did things properly, they would be able to obtain endless good fortune. Hey Tiangang licked his lips. His calm face was now flushed red, and his fingers on his thighs lightly trembled. Across from him, old Fox sucked in a deep breath and temporarily suppressed his emotions. His gaze fell on Hey Tiangang, and he faintly frowned. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Old dog, although I can understand your current excitement, you and I both know how difficult this matter is. Strictly speaking, it is even more difficult than refining a life-changing potion that can stimulate the bloodline of the demons. You've already tried many times in these past years, so I advise you not to easily open your mouth." Hey Tiangang closed his eyes. After several breaths of time, he opened them again. But in the end, he still couldn't completely calm the fluctuating emotions in his heart. There was still a trace of struggle in his eyes. "You smelly fox, I understand what you were saying. But it is precisely because I have already tried so many times in these past years that I am certain this is my last chance." He paused for a moment and then slowly let out a breath. Although the endless abyss is vast, peak demon refiners are as rare as phoenix feathers and Chelan horns. If I miss Sir Wildfire, it is impossible for me to meet a second one. So, no matter what, I must try at least once. If I am rejected, then I can completely give up and extinguish all thoughts of becoming an old man in this giant deer city. Old Fox was silent for a long time. Then he gently sighed. "Then you had best prepare a sufficiently generous gift. If you need my help, just ask. After all, I'm also one of the reasons why you ended up like this." Hey Tiangang smiled. "There is no need. I have waited for this day for countless years. I have already made all the necessary preparations." He glanced at Old Fox. "You do not need to feel any guilt towards me. There was no right or wrong in what happened in the past. You and I simply had different standpoints." The carriage fell silent. In silence, they entered Merry Forest. Old Fox left the carriage in a hidden area. After changing carriages, he didn't pause at all and instead left in another direction. Hey Tiangang stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Black Edge respectfully stood to the side, his eyes filled with curiosity. He didn't know where his master had gone today, nor did he understand why Old Fox would be together with his master. It had to be known that ever since he entered Merry Forest, although there had been no direct conflict between his master and Thousand Eye Temple, their relationship wasn't considered good. As for his master's relationship with Old Fox, he didn't know. In truth, he didn't want to know either. This was because maintaining a muddled state was the best choice for a subordinate. "Black Edge, I will be going into seclusion for some time. I will temporarily leave the affairs of Merry Forest to you to manage." With that, Hey Tiangang stepped out. Demonic energy surged and his figure vanished. Black Edge bowed. "Yes, my master." Liao Shi glared at Qinyu. She had maintained this posture for a long time. If she continued like this, one would worry that her eyeballs would pop out her eye sockets. Qinyu originally didn't want to bother with her. Of course, deep in his heart, he wanted to see her make a fool of herself. But in truth, being stared at for too long was indeed uncomfortable, even if the one staring at you was a pleasant-looking woman. They were the ones who decided that I was the one who refined the potions, so it has nothing to do with me, right? Qinyu rubbed his temples. "Umph." Liao Shi coldly sneered completely unmoved. Qin was helpless. You must know that although you can freely appear in front of the abyssal demons, that is because you are wearing the pendant of hypocrisy. To you, fame is useless. It will only bring unnecessary trouble. Leaving these burdens to me is the best choice, don't you think? Humph. What do you want? I refined the potions. Everything was refined by me. But now they all think it was you. That is the greatest harm to me. Do you know that my dream of being the #1 demon refiner in the abyss has just set sail, and now it has been completely trampled on by you? Qin Yu's face darkened. Then how about I call them back and tell them that you are the #1 demon refiner in the abyss? Liao, sure, don't be so emotional. To you and me, the abyss is only a journey in our lives. We will eventually return to the world of the living. Once we leave, everything that happens here will be meaningless. Taking a deep breath, Qin Yu's tone softened a little. For some meaningless fame, isn't it not worth it? Liao sure bit her lips. I don't care. She lowered her head and thought for a moment. Then her eyes brightened. You just said that you will leave the abyss sooner or later. So everything that happens here is meaningless to you, right? Qin Yu nodded. Good. I want you to promise me that before you leave the abyss, you will publicly announce that the one who refined these potions is me, Miss Liao Sure. I am the strongest demon refiner in the abyss, and you are only my assistant. In the process of refining these potions, you only played a small role. Qin Yu said, Okay, you agree? You can't go back on your word. Is there a need? You have to promise. Okay, I promise. Finally, everything was settled. Looking at Liao Shure's departing back, Qin Yu couldn't help but bitterly smile. He thought that women were sometimes difficult to understand. He really couldn't understand why Liao Shure cared so much about this matter. If there was something he couldn't figure out, then there was no need to waste time and energy. In the future, the answer would naturally jump out. Strictly speaking, after forming an alliance with Thousand Eye Hall and Mary Forest, there was no need to worry about his safety in Jilu City. Although he didn't know how much strength these two forces could produce if they joined forces. If they were able to work together, they would inevitably stand on the same level. In other words, Thousand Eye Hall was no weaker than Mary Forest, and Mary Forest occupied nearly a fifth of Jilu City's territory. This was a simple analogy. In this situation, even if the city lord wanted to deal with Qin Yu, they might not succeed. The only thing he needed to worry about was what Liao Sure said. As time passed, the aura she emitted would become increasingly strong. The pendant of hypocrisy was good, but it was hard to say when it would be used. It seemed that he needed to collect some things that could be used to further conceal her aura. This was already the 7th day since the eruption of the beast tide. Who knew how many demon beast corpses had fallen from the endless moat in front of Jilu City? But they still covered the mountains and plains endless and endless. It gave the demons the feeling that the more they killed, the more there would be. Although they occupied a natural stronghold and had a strong city to rely on, in these last 6 days, the demon race had suffered a terrifying number of casualties. Ordinary demons only knew that the eruption of the beast tide this time was particularly fierce. But the City Lord Mansion that controlled all resources and organized a resistance against the beast tide knew exactly what was happening. In a short 7 days, the number of demon casualties in Jilu City had already equaled the total number of casualties from the previous beast tide eruptions. According to convention, once a beast tide erupted, it would continue for at least a month. And as time passed, the beast tide would become increasingly strong, reaching its peak in around 20 days. Disregarding the possibility that the city was broken through by the beast tide, even if they could hold on, the final number of demon casualties would reach an astonishing number. Moreover, what was strange was that not all cities suffered such a terrifying impact from the beast tide. On the contrary, according to the news they received, the other 2 large cities near Jilu City suffered much less than in previous years. This was an extremely rare occurrence. But the abyss had existed for countless years, and beast tides had erupted countless times. There were similar examples. The reason why the intensity of a beast tide increased abnormally was because there was something in that city that was extremely tempting to demon beasts. In the ancient records of the Abyss, Abyss City, which had yet to be destroyed tens of thousands of years ago, was built by the powerful Ink race in their most glorious period. It had an incomparably powerful defensive ability, and it was said that even the king of the Abyss couldn't break through. But in a beast tide, it was completely destroyed and fell into the endless abyss. Not a single one of the tens of millions of demons in the city survived. After the investigation, it was found that Abyss City was powered by 3 demon dragon hearts, which provided the entire city with an endless supply of demonic power. Because the aura of the demon dragon hearts couldn't be completely concealed, it caused the beast tide to change, and the degree of terror skyrocketed 100 times. The City Lord Mansion suspected that what happened to Julu City this time was most likely because there was something in the city that was extremely tempting to demon beasts. Of course, this was only a suspicion for the time being. The cause of the beast tide hadn't been clearly investigated. Who could truly be sure what these berserk demon beasts were thinking? But no matter what the cause of the beast tide was, the dangerous situation that Julu City was currently facing was an indisputable fact. Therefore, the City Lord Mansion believed that it was necessary to report this matter to the other forces in the city. Only by combining all their strength could they possibly resist the attack of this beast tide. Otherwise, once Julu City was breached, even if the ruling class could escape, they would suffer the greatest loss. The message from the City Lord Mansion was quickly sent out, but the first response made the City Lord frown. Erebus had just gone into seclusion. Chapter 1049. Merry Forest occupied nearly 1/5 of Julu City. It had its own system and was outside of the control of the City Lord's office. In reality, it was a city within a city. City Lord Zay, who was a mix of serpent and serpent, chose to acquiesce and even let Black Edge, who was related to him by blood, enter Merry Forest and become Tiangong's trusted subordinate. This was naturally because he was afraid of his demon commander level strength. Why don't you try someone else? Let's see if our Zay City Lord will pull out your brain with one slap. Therefore, in the face of Tiangong's response to his closed-door training, the City Lord could do nothing but helplessness. This was because he had already begun his closed-door training the day before he sent the message. He had already confirmed this, and Black Edge had also given him a clear answer. This bastard kid, after entering Merry Forest, had really become Tiangong's absolute confidant. His attitude toward his uncle was rather cold. But on this matter, Zay believed that this kid would not dare to casually fool him. Without Tiangang, Julu City had one less Demon Commander level P combat power. This obviously greatly affected his plans. But the beast tide was getting stronger by the day. Countless demons were dying every day. He could not wait any longer. It was not that our Zay City Lord was kind and valued the defending demons. It was because only with people could there be wealth. If most of the demons in Julu City died, what was the point of him being the City Lord? Or to put it in more extreme terms, if Julu City was really conquered by the beast tide, would the City Lord still be the City Lord? So on the matter of resisting the beast tide, the Zay City Lord was definitely the most enthusiastic one out of everyone. Since Merry Forest was absent, Thousand Eye Hall and 3 Lives Pavilion came as promised. Together with the City Lord's office, they formed the top 4 of Julu City. Of course, in terms of absolute strength, the City Lord's office, which was recognized by the Demon King of this level, was the strongest on the surface. But if everyone really fell out and fought with their lives on the line, it would be hard to say who would have the last laugh in the end. After all, while the City Lord's office was recognized by the Demon King of the Abyss, it did not mean that we did not have any backing. Putting aside the Merry Forest, which was an unexpected product, both the Thousand Eye Hall and the Pavilion of 3 Lives were behemoths with a chain that spread throughout the Abyss. Not to mention how powerful these two forces were. How could they not have powerful backers to back them up if they were able to do business? In short, on the surface, the City Lord's mansion was the leader of Jiulu City, and everyone would give it a certain degree of respect. However, when they were on the stage and faced each other face to face, they were basically on equal footing. Here's a piece of news. In the beginning, Mary Forrest wasn't recognized as having such a status. After all, as a local force that grew up in a barbaric manner, it would be a joke for them to be on equal footing with them without any background. The final result of this matter was that a fierce battle erupted between He Tiangang and the steward of the Three Lies Pavilion. No one knew the specifics of what happened, but from then on, Mary Forrest gained its current transcendent status. As for the steward of the Three Lies Pavilion, a cold man from the Viper tribe, he wore a black eye patch on his face and never took it off again. The City Lord of Blackpool sat down on the main seat. His eyes swept over the two. You should already know the reason why I invited you two here today. There has been a change in the beast horde. In order to prevent the situation from worsening to an unmanageable state, we must act as soon as possible to suppress it. The situation was tense, so there was no more mystery. Everyone went straight to the point. Old Fox frowned. Although I know that the beast horde this time is a bit inappropriate. Has the situation really reached such a serious point? The City Lord of Blackpool flicked his sleeves, and two magic crystal cards fell on the table. The information recorded within is first-hand information collected by the City Lord's mansion. You two should have received some of it before. You will understand after reading it. After a moment, he put down the magic crystal cards in his hands. The room was deathly silent, and the air was filled with an oppressive aura. Old Fox frowned, and his face darkened. He did not think that the situation in Jiulu City had reached such a dangerous state. According to the calculations of the City Lord's mansion, as time passed and the beast horde power increased, it was highly likely that Jiulu City would be breached. Without Jiulu City, the City Lord was no longer the City Lord. As for him, the manager of the Thousand Eye Palace, he was no exception. Taking a deep breath, Old Fox slowly said, "With a situation like this, we should indeed intervene and take precautions." At this moment, the manager of Three Lies Pavilion let out a low laugh. Jiulu City is in danger. We are naturally duty-bound. But I don't understand why Mary Forrest can stay out of this. Shouldn't they contribute to the defense of Jiulu City? The City Lord of Blackpool frowned and then calmed down. He Tiangang has gone into seclusion. Before I sent a message to you, this was just a coincidence. So what if it was a coincidence? The beast horde has changed and the city is about to be breached. Even if he has gone into seclusion, can't he just temporarily stop? The manager of Three Lives Pavilion's laughter became colder and colder. My Three Lives Pavilion will not charge in a battle for no reason. Ever since the battle that year, Three Lives Pavilion and Mary Forrest appear to be at peace with each other on the surface, but in reality, they were like fire and water. Over the years, the two sides had fought in secret countless times, and their hands were stained with each other's blood. So in truth, the City Lord was not unprepared for this situation. He took out two more magic crystal cards. Jiulu City cannot be lost. This concerns our interests, but as the City Lord of Jiulu City, I am duty-bound. So in the magic crystal cards is the compensation I have prepared for you two. As long as you cooperate with me in resisting the beast horde, after this matter is over, I will honor it. The manager of Three Lives Pavilion took out the magic crystal cards. His eyes suddenly lit up and then flashed a few times. The compensation from the City Lord is indeed tempting, but enough. Old Fox interrupted him. Inhanshin, the greed of your Viper tribe has affected you greatly. If it weren't for the fact that you weren't willing to give up some of the benefits in your hands, you wouldn't have come into conflict with Mary Forrest and fallen to such a state. Now, the beast horde threatens the entirety of Jiulu City. Neither of us can stay out of this. Even after the City Lord has offered compensation, you still continue to pester us. Do you want to repeat what happened in the past? Inhanshin narrowed his eyes. Old Fox, are you threatening me? Old Fox was expressionless. I'm only reminding you not to go too far. Hee hee, strange, truly strange. I heard that old fox had a conflict with He Tiangang not long ago, but now he is speaking up for him. I can't help but suspect that this matter isn't as simple as it seems. In Hanxin's lips curled up. After all, there must be a reason for this. What does old fox think? Old fox coldly sneered. What you think is your own business. The key right now is to deal with the beast horde outside the city. Old fox is right. Then I will agree. I hope that the city lord will keep his promise in the future. In Hanxin faintly smiled and said no more. The city lord of Blackpool nodded. Of course. He cursed in his heart. This damned poisonous snake. It was true that he hated Mary Forrest, but he wasn't someone who couldn't tell what was important. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been qualified to be the manager of Jiulu City's Three Life Pavilion. His actions today were mostly to gain some benefits. As for Old Fox, the city lord really couldn't figure out what he was thinking. Was it like what In Hanxin had said, that he was helping He Tiangang, or was this old thing playing along and making him take out the compensation? After all, as the city lord of Jiulu, since he had invited these two here today, he definitely wouldn't sit by and watch Jiulu City's internal strife rise again. Taking a deep breath, he suppressed his tumbling thoughts. Since the city lord of Blackpool had prepared the magic crystal card, he had naturally prepared it long ago. You too, since you've agreed to this, let's discuss what we should do next. The city lord of Blackpool tapped on the table. In Hanxin smiled. I believe that the city lord has already thought about this. Why waste time? Why don't you just say it? If we can accept it, we will do as the city lord says. Old Fox nodded. That's right. The city lord of Blackpool said, that's good. Then I will start the discussion. His fingers continued to tap on the table. After pausing for a few breaths, he slowly said, the beast tide in Jiulu City is a local strengthening. The power of the beast tide in the surrounding cities is even weaker than in previous years. So we can infer that the environment of the beast tide itself hasn't changed. It's just that more demon beasts are gathering towards Jiulu City. The two of you should be able to guess what this means. Is the city lord saying that something that attracts demon beasts has appeared in Jiulu City? In Hanxin's expression was solemn, but his eyes burned with passion. The destruction of Ink Abyss City had shaken the entire abyss. Although it was rumored that the demon dragon race was behind this, the terror of the beast tide still made all the demons tremble. If this was true, then Jiulu City would likely follow in the footsteps of Ink Abyss City. Old Fox's heart skipped a beat. In this moment, Sir Lu's figure appeared in his mind without warning. As a powerful abyss walker, it was normal for him to have some treasures on him. Could it be that the reason for the beast tide strengthening was because of him? Countless thoughts surged through his mind. Old Fox's expression did not change. If he couldn't even hide his emotions, how could he have lived to this day? The city lord of Blackpool said, there is no evidence to prove this. Right now, it is just a suspicion. So I hope that you two can secretly investigate when you return and see if you can find anything. Of course, this is just a precaution. The best way to fight against the beast tide outside the city is to kill the demon beasts that control the demon beasts within the beast tide. Every time a beast tide erupted, there would be some powerful demon beasts within. They would automatically become the leaders of the demon beasts' army and charge according to their will. Break through the enemy lines. Of course, this was the conclusion that the demon race had come to after countless beast tides. In reality, the demon beasts' army in the beast tide did not have any rationality to speak of, and the more powerful the demon beast, the harder it was to maintain its rationality. What more in the beast tide? But no matter what the truth of the matter was, killing the most powerful demon beast in the beast tide could indeed weaken the beast tide. After losing the leadership of the powerful demon beasts, the beast tide was likely to split and the pressure on Jiulu City would decrease. It was a good idea, and if it was successfully implemented, it would definitely be effective. But the key was who to send. Today, there were so many demon beasts gathered outside Jiulu City that they could move mountains and fill the seas. It was easy to leave the city, but to return alive would obviously be an extremely difficult task. In other words, this was basically a suicide mission. The people who were sent out would not be able to return. It was obvious with one's fist that the demon beast that could control the endless demon beast horde outside Jilu City today must be very powerful. Looking at the scale of the beast tide, it should be at the demon commander level. Even if the demon beasts had no rationality and were relatively easy to kill, to cause harm to a demon commander level demon beast, at least a demon general had to act. And the number of people could not be too small. No matter what, it had to be more than 10 to have a chance of attacking and killing the demon beast. In the Abyss, demon generals were already absolute experts. For example, He Tiangong's subordinates, He Meng and Ing Feng, were his trusted aides and had extremely high positions in the Merry Forest, but they were only demon generals. Although there were a few other demon generals in Merry Forest who were on the same level as the two of them, even if they were added up, there would not be more than 10. So on and so forth. The City Lord's Mansion, Thousand Eye Palace, Three Lives Pavilion, and Merry Forest, the four top factions of Jilu City, had around 40 demon generals. Even if the hidden experts of each faction were included, at most 50 was the limit. Sending out 10 demon generals at once to complete a mission that was almost certain death was equivalent to losing at least 1/5 of the demon experts in Jilu City. Moreover, because of the absence of Merry Forest, this matter could only be shared by the City Lord's Mansion, Thousand Eye Palace, and Three Lives Pavilion. This loss was simply shocking. Demon generals were not ordinary low-level demons that could be killed. There were countless races in the Abyss, and new demons were born every day. There was no end to them. But only one demon general could be born out of a million demons. Moreover, they already had their own will. If they were forced to accept a mission that was almost certain death, did they really think that these people would not dare to escape? Probably any demon commander would be very happy to accept them. Therefore, this matter was very difficult. The City Lord of Black Swamp City took a deep breath. The City Lord's Mansion can send out 4 demon generals. This is my limit and also my sincerity. Elder Fox was silent for a moment, then gritted his teeth. 3 demon generals, the Thousand Eye Palace can agree. In other words, our Three Lives Pavilion will also send out 3 demon generals. Although Ian Hanshin was smiling, his expression was incomparably savage. City Lord, the compensation you gave before must be increased by 30% before I can agree to this. The City Lord was expressionless. All right. The corner of Ian Hanshin's mouth twitched, then it settled. After another round of agreement, the 3 elders left. Even with their status, to complete this matter would take a lot of effort. Sitting in the carriage, Elder Fox's eyes were half closed. In his mind, thoughts spun rapidly. He Tiangong's seclusion was within his expectations. Since he wanted to ask Sir Lu Hua to help, of course he had to recover to his peak condition. But both he and Elder Fox were very clear that the success rate of this matter was not very high, because even the Abyss Walker was not omnipotent. If some matters were not handled well, it could even cause a backlash. For example, what He Tiangang wanted Sir Lu Hua to do next. But what if He Tiangang did something very important for Sir Lu Hua? For example, the suddenly strengthened beast horde outside Jilu City. If it really had something to do with Sir Lu Hua, there might be a chance. After all, to be able to help 2 low-level demons consecutively complete their bloodline activation in such a short period of time, Sir Lu Hua's ability must be at the top even among the Abyss Walkers. If he agreed to help, there might be a chance of success. After thinking for a long time, Elder Fox took out a magic crystal card. On the surface of the card, there were intertwining blood-colored lines. It was obvious that it was not an ordinary item. After imprinting the information, he exerted a bit of force in his fingers, and the magic crystal card shattered with a crack. The fragments that fell from his fingers began to disintegrate in midair, and not even ashes were left behind. They mysteriously disappeared without a trace. Old dog, whether this matter succeeds or not will depend on your own luck. But from the time I've known you, other than that incident in the past, your luck has always been good. M, you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.